To come sit by you guys. You could work on your,
What was your part you wanted to look at?
you could work on your patching
Let's get Tim
information
out
while
of
you
the
were
way.
in there.
Tell me what
I'm gonna get
what
them to run the patch. Okay.
33, 44, 92,
I don't know why they weren't okay with
Yeah,
it.
Dick, I went through this, and anything that pertains to the police, your recommendation was what we had discussed, so.
what number are we talking about?
Well, like chapter 72, traffic regulations, chapter 71, golf carts,
Oh, that's
traffic
funny.
code, chapter 70.
Tell me how long ago.
All of those were,
What's that?
in my opinion, were exactly what we talked about in those meetings.
Okay.
So the
Yes,
only,
absolutely.
the only thing that I wanted to discuss, Dick, and I don't know that it's me or not, and you and I talked about it briefly, was the Emergency Service and Disaster Agency, the ESDA director.
And that's on the very first page.
Yes, sir.
It's,
Yeah, chapter 30, page 1 of your,
Yeah.
of your page, it's chapter 30, officials, employees, and organizations.
Okay, currently, we don't have an appointed ESDA director. It's a monetary compensated position and really does not require much work, but the person in charge is the contact person. In the event, currently the city of Jacksonville and Warren County supports the local ESDA office. It would be my opinion, now it's my opinion, this is not, does not mean that you guys share the same opinion. But in my opinion, we opt out to do the same thing, naming the county ESDA office to represent the village and compensate his office by an amount to be determined. Be my suggestion is we use this county office and do away with the ordinance number 467 that was passed on 5/20/1076.
I agree.
So, if I could respectfully disagree with you, Dick, I feel, regardless of who runs that in the village, and I don't want it to come out of this department, but that's up for the council discussion. I feel like if we give up that power, it's a disservice to the citizens of South Jacksonville. That position for our area, and the reason that the county and the city did that is because it pays a lot of money. The S director gets paid well, so they split his salary. You know, Phil gets half paid by the city and half paid by the county, and it works because he's in the county over. It works really good with them. I don't feel, and this is not taking anything away from Phil at all. We work with him on a daily basis, and he's damn good at what he does. I don't think having another iron in the fire for him it is going to tickle him. I think that he would take it on. However, I just don't feel that the citizens of South Jacksonville are going to get their bang for their buck, so to speak. If we keep that here, and Dick, our conversation, you know, naturally when you go to small communities, it's typically the fire chief, or not necessarily the fire chief, but the ordinance will usually read the fire chief or his designee, or however you say that. So if the fire chief doesn't want the responsibilities, he can pick somebody that's capable of doing that within his organization. But I think to keep that within the village is a huge asset. The fire department already has the Mavis contact. I mean, so let's pick this apart. A disaster happens in the village of South Jacksonville. Phil and ESDA, they're going to respond regardless of whether we have our own or not. So to farm out and put all of our eggs in that basket, I think is not going down the best road when we have the ability to run that operation out of our own community and make the calls. We can get our own grants for ESDA and so on. I just don't see a benefit to simply writing a check to the city, the county, or Phil. I don't think that's going to benefit us.
I talked to Phil on this when I made, everything in red on this is my
Yes, sir.
deal. Okay. And I talked to Phil on this, and he was not talking about any monetary compensation for
Sure.
it. So if we had somebody here, what I'm looking at is, I don't want to create another position here where somebody's getting paid for this, because it's a nothing job. And till you need them,
There you go.
Okay.
Right.
But if you need them, you still got Phil that's going to override everything, do you not?
Not override. It's working. They work as a team together. He wouldn't have the authority to override anything it's just a relationship, and it's the same relationship we have now. We use Bill on a pretty common basis. We had him when we had the fuel spill out at Love's, or not fuel, it was acid, chemical acid. Yeah. So we would continue to do that, and we'd still have his resources. We just have a local coordinator within the village to make for sure that I mean, if we can do it in-house, regardless of whether, and I don't even know that Rich would be interested in this, but whether it's compensated or not, if it was in-house, I just think there'd be a much bigger benefit than somebody that's already overseeing the county and the city, and as many jobs, the coroner's office and so on. That he has. Very capable. I'm not trying to take anything away from Bill. He's more than capable. I just feel that it'd be no different, in my opinion, than saying, well, the sheriff of Morgan County, we don't really need a police chief. I mean, he has the authority. Just saying.
Yeah.
And it's, similar.
You said you don't want it to be you or out of the police department?
I don't feel that it's the best fit. Typically in emergency disaster situations, emergency services, as in the fire department, those types of agencies take over just because our job is the criminal aspect of it and securing, if a tornado came through, not that never happens here. Our job is to secure the scene, make for sure the residents' houses. Where emergency services' job is to make for sure lives aren't lost. Not that the police doesn't play a valuable role in that, but.
What do you think about one of Rich's retired firefighters with a lot of EMS experience? Somebody want to take that on, maybe?
It's a possibility.
It's gonna take someone with just more EMS.
But, I think
There's a lot behind that.
also,
Well,
too,
yeah,
that person, having them being available for some type of emergency might be less than, somebody that's already in the firehouse. That has, most people that retire kind of want to give up that radio on their side.
I think you have qualified people
Absolutely.
within your own agencies. Whether those qualified people are interested in it, whether it's compensated or non-compensated, is probably more the question. But you've got very qualified people within your ranks now.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not trying to disagree with you, Dick. That's the only thing
Yeah,
that
I don't know, Brian.
in going through these, every other change in reference to the police department is what we had discussed as a when we were having the meetings, and that was all that I had in there.
Okay.
Dick, you say it's monetarily compensated, but
It
is
has been monetarily compensated.
Oh, okay, because I was
in the
looking in
past.
here to see if it said like how much or anything, but in the past it has been.
Yes.
Okay. So you just want them to do it for free? Is that, if we created
Well,
a
we don't have one now, and we're getting by,
Yeah.
and I don't, yes, I want them to do it for free, just to keep the cost down.
Where do you think it would?
Go to G
Fit.
under, if you're looking at compensation.
Yes.
That's-
Where you at?
Oh, I didn't turn the page.
Sorry.
enough, I guess.
Um,
There it is.
Well, 9,
There.
but I
Page
know they're not
7.
numbered sequentially under each chapter, so 9 under that chapter.
Yeah, now I see it. It doesn't really say, just the,
I'm sorry, 10. G is on 10. The ordinance
Yeah.
starts on it.
Are you looking at the blue?
Oh, yeah.
7.
Sorry.
I'm looking at 7.
so it looks like they
For
just
G,
get paid
compensation for members of
for
civil defense.
training. Is that the way I'm reading it?
Or am I on the wrong?
If they're
We're looking
a
at-
paid employee or officer of the village now, if called for training by the state director of ESDA, shall receive for the time spent in such training
Okay,
the
ESDA,
same rate of
yeah.
pay as attached to the position held.
That was civil defense. The other one.
So if they're an employee, the way I'm reading that is what you're already making,
But that's-
whatever training. How much training is there? Do you know?
There's yearly stuff that you.
Yearly.
There's always
For
one
ESTA,
thing to keep up.
Yeah.
where you got all your NIMS,
All your what?
National Incident Management.
You have to
System
speak
courses. Sorry.
Not in your lingo, but in,
I don't know how far you guys are trained in hazmat. I don't know, there's just,
And those are the things, I guess that's another reason Todd is, they're already trained in a lot of those, obviously, NIMS, we are as well, all lot of
Pulling
those
that in.
trainings they already have, as far as the hazmat and then the MAVIS.
So that's yearly training, you go for like a recertification or,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Now, is that like, I mean, for teachers, ours is much less, but it's like a day, 2-day trainings that we get recertified on things, is
Yeah,
that?
and sometimes computer-based.
Okay,
We have
yep,
CBT,
we have those too.
Police department, a lot of those.
Now, those, as far as paid or compensated, I don't have a problem with that per se, because if they're already employees,
Right,
it's
have-
training.
Have the training, yeah.
You have an individual, Phil,
yes,
who agreed to
No,
me
I-
personally that
Yeah.
he would do this basically for nothing. I say for nothing. And this guy should be up to date on everything there is. My opinion, he is going to, he runs Jacksonville, he runs Morgan
yeah,
County.
yeah, I know.
And for our little deal here, I don't see any reason not to include him on that. And even if you paid him $1,000 a year, I'm just using that for a number. You don't want any money. But once they get into it, they may come back and want money. Hell, I don't know. But I'd rather do that at a minimal amount than create a new position here. That's my viewpoint.
Well, I think you ought to have
But
at
it-
least a stipend, you know, for
It
taking
does
this
say-
on.
Reimbursement by the state, though, on H, the state treasurer may receive and allocate to the appropriate fund any reimbursement by the state to the village for expenses incident to training members of the ESDA as prescribed by the state director of ESDA.
Trying to get money out of the state for something right now.
Well, I know, but it says
I wouldn't say that.
there's a reimbursement.
I wouldn't say that at all, because there's, if you look at the 911 budget that I gave you last month, there's over $300,000 that the state is putting into that budget, so. And that's something, and maybe, you know, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do, but I don't know what your time frame is, maybe to table this and be able to look into it, because there is things that the state allows, if we have our own ESDA, opens up doors for, and again, I'm not talking about a team of people. I honestly, this doesn't affect the police department at all until something happens.
Right.
We've got a great relationship with Phil. I don't have any problem working with him at all. I just would ask that the board give this real consideration, because once you turn that power over to somebody else, you've lost a lot. Not that you can't take it back next year or next month, but
I think Phil would work with you guys on where you need to be trained at.
absolutely. Yeah, and you'd want that.
Because that's just more
relationship.
personnel to work within.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And you'd want that relationship to continue to, you know, if you have a local as a person, you'd want them working with his office to make for sure you're on the same page. And that's what we're doing. I mean, with NIMS and Incident Command, that's what we're doing anyways. We're putting together those teams with outside agencies for in the event of a disaster, whether it be a school, you know, an active shooter situation or whatever it is. So you're exactly right.
It might be worth looking at how much training there is. I mean, if you're, this is a position that I think it should be pretty clear cut what you need to be trained in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and especially if it's annually, biannually, whatever it is, so then we should be able to know a cost.
Sure.
And most of the stuff is stuff we do already.
Yeah.
Okay.
The vast majority, like 90% plus.
Well,
Is
maybe
that-
I'm,
yeah.
maybe I'm underthinking this, but instead of creating a new position, is this something where, and I'm not trying to speak for you here because we haven't talked about this at all, but this is something where when we do our appointment, our officers with the fire department, is this something where we could just say you have your chief, your assistant chief, your second assistant, and the ESDA officer within the fire department? Do some kind of annual compensation that the ESDA officer gets this amount, and instead of it being a new position, it's just an officer within the fire department?
Yeah, and I'll agree with Tim. I think it needs to be kept in our community, and you know, it does kind of fall under the fire department, and you know, maybe not me or one of the officers. You know, I think it would benefit us a lot more. Like you said, you know, Tim mentioned giving up that power, you know, something that we could be doing. And Phil will always be right there, you know,
Sure.
if there's a disaster to help us out.
Well, Dick, if it's the compensation that is holding you up, maybe we can just look at it a little more, how many hours are involved, and then just see how much it costs. Because I don't even know how
I got
much
no
money
problem with that.
we're talking about. Because if we're already paying them as employees, there might be some things, there are like, you know, Chief just said, there might be things you're already doing. And if we can be reimbursed,
What the heck?
then why not? But, so is money the only thing that's holding you up?
Basically, yeah,
Okay.
I don't wanna spend money
Yeah, I s- and I
unnecessarily
see your
when we
point.
have, the people are there already to do the
Yeah.
job, and just like you keep referring to it, if Phil's gonna be here anyway, hell, let him run the show. That's my viewpoint.
Yeah, and we're getting away, or we're certainly attempting to in the state of Illinois, getting away from duplication of services. So that's a move in that direction. However, I still think to have a local person, and they have those, you know, in most
Yeah.
communities, a local liaison that's gonna be your ESDA person that will work with that office. I don't think this is a position or another salary or another budgetary item. I think this is just simply a name of, hey, this person's gonna be in charge of our emergency services.
Right, contact person
Exactly.
Right.
to work with Phil under
Exactly.
certain circumstances.
Yes, sir.
Well, and the only thing I see is if there's any money spent, it'd obviously be on the training for somebody in the house of the fire department to have that, like you say, the chief, the assistant chief, that way, you know, maybe it don't need to be one. If we're taking the training, why not have a couple of them? And then we just have it at that, you know, and then set it as if something whatever is to happen, then they get a stipend from it, because you might get reimbursed for the stipend that you put out.
Yeah,
That's-
exactly. So
You
we
see
don't
what-
know
you know what
that
I'm saying?
yet. Yeah.
If they're doing the
I mean,
training
there's no
anyway,
reason-
yeah.
There's no reason to pay every month more on top of, if some, you know what I'm saying, for something that may never happen, hopefully. But then, if something does, then there's a stipend involved that we can set in place. You know, here's what you're paid for a disaster. And then obviously, if this is the case where we would be reimbursed, then it's a win-win for the,
And
but the only thing we're coming out of pocket would be is to pay for the training, which I don't think would be,
Well, and I think, Jason, to address that, you know, we have training built into our budget. However, if it's something out of the ordinary, we're gonna come to the council anyway. If we have an opportunity to do an active shooter in Dallas, Texas, it's a great class. I'm not gonna sign anybody up for that until we come before the board. and say,
Sure,
"Hey,
sure,
this is
sure.
our opportunity." I think it's the same with this or any other training. If it's not something that's just standard, you know, a normal training thing that's not budget affecting. Otherwise, I think the council's gonna be able to evaluate those every time and say, yeah, no, we're not paying for your ESDA guys to go to Florida and. Okay.
So
I mean,
can we do more, like, look into that more, Dick?
I would say so.
And then see what it actually would cost us. If money's the only thing holding you up, which I get it, and we do need to be fiscally responsible, but you guys also have points, so can you check to see what it costs? Is that built in, like, when you do the training anyway? That's already built into your budget? Yeah.
They would probably get called out anyway, yeah.
Oh, okay,
We usually just have somebody come
okay.
in, or else it's
no
all.
way.
So is there like something you can go to online or wherever that says this is what you need for, as like a coordinator, and then is there a member? Like, do you have a team? Is that what they're called, or?
They all fall under the.
Okay. So yeah, the basic requirements, and then we can look further and see what that's gonna cost. Then we can see if we can get it for free, so Dick is on board. Or everyone has to chip in $5.
Right, right.
I mean, I get what he's saying, but
Yeah.
I don't even know how much money right now, so I don't wanna take it off until I know how much.
And then,
Money.
if you folks are ready to move on,
Yeah.
chapter 73 is on page 8 of Dick's deal, parking regulations. Dick, you had in there a table until 7:25, which we moved.
Right.
Okay, so that was the
You,
only.
there was I don't know if everybody's got it or not, but we had an ordinance
Yes, sir.
passed.
Yeah,
It didn't pass, right?
It
Yes,
did pass.
yes.
And
It did,
the
okay.
one that says copy on it, Dick, is trash. You would have received another one in your.
Okay.
If you have any of the ones that say copy, guys, those are the ones that were, as I gave them to you, I said, this is in the
that's when you were gone.
Yeah.
We voted on that.
Let's just go through this, like page 1. Does anybody have any problem with the 30.001 Board of Local Improvements? And basically it's reword old ordinance, for 6/12/46, do away with it. 7/3/75, another ordinance 460, be removed or updated to reflect the current situations. Somebody had said terms of office for the local planning commission, that these guys be paid $50 per member in attendance for that meeting.
That's why I recommend 50, 100, something in that range.
Yeah.
I mean,
Does anybody have any comments on that?
and we also need to redo the terms, but we'll have to look at who's up and when and talk to them. But it's kind of got a jumbled mess as far as when their terms are up, because it's supposed to be 3-year terms, staggering terms, so.
And they're just on there till they die or quit?
Yeah, and what had happened is when somebody resigned and they had a year left in their term, and the next person got appointed to a new 3 years instead of that year that was left. So all the dates are just all messed up, so we just need to refresh it.
So do we have a recommendation of paying them $50 in a meeting?
Because they don't meet every month.
Yeah, they don't
Right.
meet every month. We barely meet.
Yeah, they hardly ever meet, but
Yeah, that sounds fine to me.
It might get them to come.
absolutely.
Well, he's got to browbeat these guys to come.
He does.
Yeah. Larry did just message me over the weekend because I had asked him about how many they had, and then he had said they were 2 down. But I think he's found names, and he was gonna
I think he has
send them to all the
one name
board.
that-
He did send, he's got 2 now.
Oh, 2 now.
So he said he would send them to all the board members
Good.
and to you so you can see
Good.
them. Because then I think he said they have a meeting coming up, or they're thinking about having a meeting.
Okay, I'm just going to circle this and put okay by it, and then we can talk about it next Thursday if we have any other thoughts on it.
On the 29th, yeah.
So like
I
on
say
the
next
terms of
Thursday.
the
I know what you
office?
meant. I know what you meant.
Yeah.
The local municipal civil defense organization recommended a chapter pertaining, all that be deleted. It's way past due and all that stuff.
Okay.
We just went over 004. 005 is Parks Board. We don't have a Parks Board. Suggested eliminate this ordinance that was passed in 75 and then another one passed in 93 because we don't have a Parks Board. Do we need a Parks Board?
Did we ever have people on one?
Evidently we did.
Because I don't remember one. Maybe they never met. No.
Eliminate this is the officials 30.020 deputy clerk. Eliminate the appointment of a deputy clerk by the municipal clerk. And that's somebody that would help Megan here.
I thought her daughter did that though. They're eliminating your daughter's position, deputy clerk.
But if we eliminate that, because anytime we needed one, we always appointed one.
Yeah.
The president did or somebody did or whatever, whatever did that way. Page 2,
So would you want to eliminate that then, or would you
Yeah.
I would say eliminate.
or modify it to where, because we need some form, some process to appoint one, a deputy one, right?
I think eliminate the deputy clerk and leave it to the president or leave it to the person in charge for that month or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, to
appoint somebody.
appoint a clerk, substitute clerk. So that means you can't quit for another 12 years.
12.
12 years.
Good luck.
Personnel administration 30.67 and 68. Neither one of these classifications are being implemented. Delete D, which is an ordinance passed in 95, and I really don't know which one that is, but we're going to find out. So somebody will turn to that page.
30, yeah. 073.
And that's what the hell is it?
Delete D. There is no D under 30.73.
30.73, is that what you said?
0.73 or 073?
I'm
No,
looking at-
067,
067 and 068,
Where are you at? Oh, up
which
at
is
the top.
page
Page
6.
2, top of page 2.
All right, I was skipping them. Okay. I have down like in quotes that that's HR. Is that what you're talking about?
Personnel system administration, personnel system shall be administered by the board president or a designee of the board president. Committee of the village of trustees appointed by the board president shall oversee the personnel operation. Now that's 3067, and 68 is on the,
Oh, you're saying neither of these are being implemented right now?
right. So tell me what you guys want to do.
Personnel system maybe shall be administered.
And under D, as assignment of employees shall be classified or paid at a wage rate which is not established and recognized by the village classification plan and pay plan. Temporary classifications may be established by the board president for non-consecutive and non-cumulative periods of time up to 6 months. That was passed in '95. Or you want to further review that?
Wait, why do you want to delete that one? Do I understand the wording there that allows you to get someone in here though for work that you need right away without, and then run it by the village?
That's how I'm reading D, but
Yeah.
go
so
back to
that-
067.
I think
067
that's-
seems vague, and I'm not even sure what that one means, but
Well, I think it, I don't know, when I read it, I see it as, if you change personnel system to human resources, then that would be like saying you're in charge of HR unless you want to make somebody else do it, which is kind of what Tiffany does through her job. And then the B would be like there's a personnel committee, which we have.
Right. and
So I mean, I think that one is what we do. It just has a outdated name.
okay.
And I
Okay.
understand the same way you do. When you read it, that's how I understood it.
Okay, so I'll make this, I'll put down change names, and then we can discuss it next week. 2 weeks, yes.
We know what you mean.
30.073, change to board president shall have authority to regulate all the terms, conditions of employment of employees of the village. Add, this is my add, based upon the approval of the board of trustees. So this is 30.073, and we're simply going to add that he shall have authority to represent the village, no.
A.
A, the board president shall have the authority to regulate all of the terms and conditions of employment of employees of the village based upon the approval of the board of trustees.
Send an approval of the board of trustees, yeah.
Okay, that's to be added. Okay. Ethic advisor. Village does not currently have an ethic advisor, but rather refer to these matters via the village attorney, set up by ordinance 876, passed on 5/6/2004. Delete or not, do we need an ethics advisor? Or should we, pardon me?
The attorney would be more.
That's,
Yeah.
that's what I.
And there's some whole things in that whole, when you're going on that ordinance, that's the one that Jeff was speaking about in that training session, that's one of the ordinances they want to revise when they do the personnel stuff.
Okay.
the- Not that it's outdated, I think the word he used was cumbersome when he talked about it.
Okay. Chapter 31 is emergency management, no changes. That's chapter 32 is public safety, law enforcement. Ambulance 32.01 is ambulance service rates. These rates were just increased in the past of May or June of the monthly meeting in 2019. 2 and 4, change passment to memorial. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And make sure that we are in compliance with memorial's requirements, if any.
We are.
That we are? Okay. Police department, police training, change last sentence. This is 3216. This is under Tim's recommendation. Change the last sentence, probationary period of 6 months, change it to 1 year. So he's on 1 year probation.
Okay.
And
Hey, Dick.
32, pardon me?
Can we roll back to that 3201? It just hit me when we were talking about
Yeah,
it changing to Memorial Medical Center. Would it be, I guess, more streamlined for the future if it were to be like the local hospital or whatever official sounding name than if Memorial Medical Center becomes Memorial Medical St. John's Center for local urban health or something dumb
So
like
if they
that.
merge or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
then
that's
we'd have to
true.
go update the ordinance because they changed their name. Like, would it benefit us to give a whatever a
Yeah.
generic
If we
official
put
sounding?
Memorial, it's very specific. Well, I think
Mhm.
the same thing what you're saying. If we put as a generic, so to speak, you know,
I mean, say generic, but I say generic as in like instead of saying Memorial Medical Center, using like local hospital in Jacksonville, Illinois, or something like that.
Well, it'd just
Like-
be local signatory, hospital, right? Is that what you're saying? You're just
I
trying to
guess,
make it
yeah,
more
because
local.
only because right now we're just updating the name because they updated a name. But if they merge with St. John's, then we have to do it again. And who's going to remember to do that? You know? But if we make it generic, then we just don't have to do it again.
You could possibly put the EMS system, that's what we operate under, whatever. EMS.
So you wouldn't have to put the hospital? Because they have it listed in here. Did you read those that said just comply with rules and policies established by? Oh yeah, you got it right in front of you. So that works? If you don't, I like that better because that's more generic. If you think that still works, if
Yeah, I
it
don't
fits,
see why it wouldn't.
that's a good point, because otherwise we gotta
Yeah.
change it.
I mean, that I think works even better than what I was thinking because
Yeah.
what if Memorial were to close the hospital?
Yeah, then we
Which
don't have a hospital.
Is happening all over the place. Not from Memorial, but in general.
Good point.
Then we, again, wouldn't have to update this.
okay, I made a note there and we'll discuss that next week.
You said,
Or
how
2
would you
weeks.
word it? Just EMS,
EMS system.
local EMS system.
EMS.
EMS.
Local EMS system, he said. Aren't you glad you stayed?
Yeah.
Police department, and then you wanted it changed from 6 months to a year on the probationary period,
Yes, sir.
correct?
That matches our policy.
And then the hiring standards is 32.17. Full-time police officer is now designated as one who works 84 hours every 2 weeks, not 30 hours per week,
Yes, sir.
correct?
That's by union contract.
Okay. And E, I have village currently does not have a police committee, do we? We don't.
We have public safety committee.
Public safety
Or-
committee.
Public protection.
Public protection,
Public
sorry.
Protection, okay.
Sorry.
But we don't certify them. So say candidates must be certified by the village's police committee, meet the following standards.
Do you know you're on that committee?
Yeah, but what's that, I can't certify.
Oh, yeah,
them.
we don't certify them anyway. They're certified by the state,
Yeah,
so
so that has to be changed a little bit.
Okay.
to be employed full-time, part-time person must be certified. Yeah.
Unless
You had-
you want us
yeah.
to certify them. Tim, it'll mean absolutely nothing. We can do it.
Yeah, you're certified by the
Well,
Maybe a
Illinois.
little 10 star.
Yeah, you are certified.
Yeah, there's an Illinois police board that
What?
certifies them.
Well, what if
I'll tell you.
certified was
Are you
changed
making
to
fun of me?
approved?
No, it's what you said.
Because then it's just like, or recommended by the Public Protection Committee or whatever, then it would be basically what we already do.
Just not certified, it's approved or.
Yeah, because I think if you take certified the right way with the right meaning, it's what we already do, but it would be confusing with police certifications and
Yeah.
Unless you want a certificate to hang on the wall in your house or something.
yeah.
Number 10 is, do we need to change this? Full-time officers must reside in a village or within a 30-minute response time, is that correct, or 20 minutes?
It's 30 in the contract.
Okay, 30 minutes, all right, so no problem there. So we just need to update the language in there.
If I may, I don't know if you want to consider this at all either. You might even want to put in something when you're looking at this police stuff that according to contract, because I don't know if that ties your hands in when
You're
you're
right.
negotiating.
What if it changes?
So maybe,
For current contract.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
something,
perfect.
you know.
Wow, look how, everybody's really,
According to
That would
current,
cut out a lot right there. Good work, Jeff.
Mhm.
Good job.
Just to refer to.
32 through 30 is creating and establishing a fire department. B2, and members, this is not a blue book, members shall elect the treasurer, said department's regular meeting, 1951. And it goes on there, and I think what I put down, B2 is in regards to the treasurer of the fire department, discussed now that their treasurer handles no funds from the village, and it has been discussed now that the treasurer handles no funds from the village, and all the money is their money, and that bond requirements for the village is mute and not enforceable.
Right.
So there is, right?
When we did that last ordinance for the appointments, we took out the treasurer completely.
Okay.
And updated that, because the treasurer before was kind of
Secretary treasurer.
Yeah.
secretary treasurer, and it handled that
Yeah.
fund.
Yeah.
And since that fund is now no longer under the village's umbrella, we did away with that treasurer position completely. So,
This is on page 3, D2. Discussions as to what monies are paid to treasurer. Currently, all bills paid by the village, money directed to fire department is collected by them for their own funds. And that's how I think that should read now. Yeah, D2 should be discussion as to what monies are paid to the treasurer of the fire department. Currently, all bills are paid by the village and money directed to the fire department is collected by them for their own fund. Does that make sense?
It's not entirely clear to say collected by the fire department, because they're not collecting anything. The 501c3 charity would be collecting that. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
And remember, they're gonna change this again, the codification company is gonna get, we have to send them copies of all the new ordinances, like when you establish that fund, and they'll make the changes.
So that'll
for
take care of that? Okay.
okay.
Right?
yes,
Okay.
that's the way I understand it,
That's how I
yeah.
understand it.
I sure hope so.
Okay.
Okay, this is my suggestion here. 32.31, discussion is to raise the amount from $500 to $1,000 per call.
Alright, so I'll pass this out to you guys. I didn't know this was in here. This rural fire thing was passed on to me when Mike McEvers took over.
Right.
And so he gave me this to go off of, and I'll let you guys. This is the Public Act, and it basically says that we can't charge more than $250 per hour, and you can't charge more than $70 per man per hour. So basically how it's done now is we bill $250 per hour for the initial call. And then after that, we bill per man per hour. And currently, I'm just kind of following suit, just like McKay is kind of filling me in on this. We bill $20 per hour per man that was on that call. So it's gonna fluctuate on how much each call you're gonna charge for. The biggest key point there is B, where it kind of explains all that I just said. So I think our hands might be a little tied on that, but I would not disagree at all by raising it from more than $20 per hour. Basically, that $20 per hour is just pretty much covering the cost of the firefighter being there.
Why don't you just go by this ILCS here? So that if it ever changes, you're gonna go by it again.
Right, and that's why, I guess you can basically do anything under those.
Yeah.
You just can't go over it.
Correct.
You go under it, you can't go over it.
Yeah.
I would recommend charging the max rates, honestly, because that $20 covers your labor, and that doesn't cover your equipment, that doesn't cover your administrative costs, anything, so, if they're gonna let you do that.
Just mirror it, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's my opinion. Just,
So on that there, just refer to the Public Act then?
Yeah, ILCS 511-6-10.
So we're gonna move forward with $70 per hour. That's the only thing we haven't been doing, it was 20, so, just so I know, okay.
Yeah.
Once we pass it.
Okay.
We could all be dead by then, but,
Don't say that.
it's taken forever.
I guess in saying that, though, I mean, we're abiding by this act, so.
Well,
Well-
yeah, technically they are supposed to be doing it now, so how's that work?
But that might put us into being over the $500 limit too, so.
We could always just update this ordinance right away and do that. I mean, that's,
And if we do have a rule fire, I'll check with you guys, make sure we're on the same page before we can send the bill out.
We can adopt this.
that's what I'm saying,
ILCS
yeah.
right in as a,
Then they wouldn't have a problem.
yeah.
Okay, moving on, 32.33 is the village fire chief. An ordinance 680 passed on 6/21 of 1990 as to the power and authority of the fire chief, and I just put in there, needs to be reviewed because I don't really know what that ordinance says,
3233.
other than it refers to it there.
Not much, I looked it up and it really just appoints the fire chief. It
Okay.
doesn't give a big list of, it doesn't give like a list of duties or responsibilities or anything like that, so.
It just lists the appointment
Pretty
process,
much, it's a
pretty much.
one-page deal, just kind of establishes it and
So leave it alone.
I think if it's just the appointment, then probably, yeah.
I mean, feel free to look it up, you know what I mean, and all that, don't take my word for it, but that's, when I looked it up, that's how I understood it, just. go from that.
Okay, 32.34 is membership in the Illinois Mutual Aid Box Alarm System. I
Dick,
checked
hang
with-
on, I think
I'm
you
sorry.
had something.
We could, like I said, after we do this, I'm gonna back up a second.
No, let's go ahead now.
Okay, well, we skipped over 32, sort of, that one, number one, on 32.
Oh, we did, discussion to raise
Oh.
this amount, 100 to.
Yeah, discussion to raise the amount of the fire protection from, what do you get now, 100?
It's 75.
75.
75, raise it to $150.
My personal opinion, I mean, we can do what you guys want. I think a lot of people might frown on doubling it right out of the gate. I think maybe gradually going up, maybe $100 this next year when we
Okay.
send things out, and then following year another 25 maybe.
Because Jacksonville bases there on the net appraised value of your house.
Correct.
And that can be a hell of a lot more than
Well, that's 'cause,
$150.
we have a lot of people call and want our fire protection because we're cheaper, but
Right.
we have an agreement where we won't go into their area. So that would be my recommendation.
You recommend
is take it slow. I mean,
To raise it to 100 next year?
100.
Okay. 3234 membership in the mutual aid and box alarm. I checked with an expert on this, and that being Phil. The village sends someone to a Mavis situation. FEMA already pays the volunteer laborers based on their own calculations. This whole resolution of 5 of 2014, which is passed on 5/1 of 2014, needs to be removed. And let's see where that was. Basically, is that we would pay, the village would pay. And you're already getting paid from FEMA, is this not correct?
Possibly. FEMA reimburses the village.
yeah.
Okay,
Or DHS.
but it just seemed to me like, that was passed. I just didn't like that being in there.
I guess I'm not sure what you're getting at, to be honest.
3234, let's
Right.
see. The village will financially compensate volunteer personnel of the department when such personnel are called to services in any federal authorized interstate, by FEMA or in any statewide and so on, by state emergency operations and so on. Compensation paid by the village will be an amount equal to the employee's civilian career pay per hour if the person is ordinary and customarily paid on an hourly basis to a maximum reimbursements of 40 hours. So the way I read this, and to speed this up, is that if you send somebody, they would get paid, let's say they make 20 bucks an hour, so they're gonna get 20, we're going to reimburse them 20 bucks an hour, but also FEMA's going to reimburse them.
FEMA only reimburses
Is the village, yeah.
You know, and reimburse the village for their costs. So if they get sent out to like a Katrina or something like that,
Yeah,
and we pay them for being down there, we send what we spent, DHS or FEMA, and they reimburse us.
Right. You have to supply all your,
so if we
salary
pay them
record.
20 bucks an hour, we're gonna get 20 back from
We get it
FEMA.
back.
Correct.
plus the other expenses. And if you don't have that in there, if you take that out, Dick, then, I mean, that's the avenue that it's set up. They can't reimburse an individual. They can only, like Todd
Right.
said, they can only reimburse a community, a village, city.
Okay. So we'll delete that then as your recommendation?
No, keep it in this.
Well, perfect scenario.
I'm sorry, delete the request to take it.
Perfect scenario on the FEMA thing. Remember John said that he wasn't gonna fix the road until FEMA pays, so that way we know we're getting paid, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
they only pay what you call like a district or a municipality or whatever, you know what I mean? They can't pay personal manpower.
Okay, so we'll leave that in. 3235 is blackouts and air raid and all that, and there's a whole bunch of that just needs to be removed because it's, hell, it goes back to 1942. That's for your birth. Chapter 33, let's see, 3239. Now, you brought this up kind of,
You say 39 or 49?
39, and this is the penalty, 3239.
I didn't see a 39.
There's no 30.
There's 3299.
It goes from 30.
Could be look under
32,
penalty if you
34.
see penalty anywhere.
Yeah.
Page 3 of it.
3299 it should be good.
Okay.
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 3290.
He just wanted to see if we were paying attention.
There's several things in here that have a penalty and they're like $5 and there's $100 and all that. And you mentioned this,
Yeah.
and Bree wanted to do this, I think, but we need to establish a certain minimum of a penalty.
So we're requesting that the council, as far as all the ordinances, if there's a violation of an ordinance and a citation's written, we're requesting a minimum of $50 with the first violation and a $100 second violation. I understand and respect the council's position that we're not in this to make money, but we do need to cover our expenses, the citation, the obviously if we get attorney fees involved, so on, there's greater expense there that can be tacked on. We're actually in the middle of that now with a property that we've had to step in and do some maintenance on. The fine structure throughout the ordinance book is just kind of all over the map, like you said.
It is, it's fun, from $5 and they go back to hell 100 years ago.
Exactly. And I'll be honest, I don't know how the council would address that overall, but if we could clean it up and just make it for the entire ordinance book, $50 violation for first violation, and or whatever you set the money to be, it's not about the amount.
I don't have any problem with
But just so that it's it's not walking your dog is $5, burning your trash is $10. There's just a lot of mixed fees.
When you put these penalties in, do you have to, when you're actually enforcing them, do you have to look at them like a way to appeal them also? Do you have to list that out?
You can
It's in-
appeal them through the
Okay.
plans commission.
Okay, so
part of
that's
that,
how that
zoning
works.
and all
Okay.
that. If you get a thing, but you're right, but I don't see any problem with the 50 and 100. That's more tolerable than what I was 100 and above.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, probably have to put in there too, like, first penalty, second penalty within the last 12 months or something, because if it's
Time period.
time period, because otherwise,
You get somebody for something 20 years ago.
right, or even 5 years ago, it's gonna be, you know, only people, maybe you're not gonna be able to go back. And find
Right.
it, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna put in there $50 and $100 for the first and the second. And this is for a penalty, and change all of it. Now, when you take somebody to, you give somebody a speeding ticket, we have nothing to do with that, right?
Yes, sir,
That's all
courthouse.
courthouse. So that's all. Do we get anything back out of that, a certain percentage?
So,
Some flying money.
yeah, I think our estimate for this year is around 30,000.
Okay.
This is a little bit, and not to confuse the issue, Dick, but there's actually in the courthouse also, once a month, there's one day a month set aside for village ordinance violations. It's an ordinance only day, so it's not a criminal court.
Yes.
And that's where our citations that we're dealing with now as far as local ordinances fall under. And the board agreed, you know, several months ago that we've contracted with Attorney Tom to handle those for us. We've actually, we're involved in
Is that amount set by us?
the amount of the fine.
Right.
That's what you're doing now.
So if we have to have a lawyer present or something, we're losing again, correct?
It's, well, and that should be written into the ordinance also, that that's above and beyond. I mean, you have the option of paying this fine, or we're gonna have to take this matter
Okay.
to court.
So obviously, after second, you're only gonna involve them after their second, and then you could word it in there, upon further policies and procedures or whatever, that kind of gives it a whole,
So if they're responsible for legal fees.
Yeah.
Well, not always second, because there's some where it could be, like, if it's a junk car and they won't get rid of it, that could be their,
First violation.
that could be their first violation, but it's a car that's been there 12 years and they still refuse to move it after working with them the last 2 years.
On my shit drive. I'd rather do it too.
Okay, chapter 33, finance and revenue, 3301 is accounts. All of A, B, C, D, and E should be reviewed by the village treasurer and report as to what monies are where and who can sign what documents and checks.
I would recommend just getting rid of all of that. For one reason or another, the board through the years has really strayed from opening accounts by ordinance, or, you know what I mean, or things like that, or signatory stuff, so all of that is outdated. And there's not any new ones really to replace it, those wouldn't have shown up. So it's in the minutes, it's in our treasurer's report every month, it's in that, but it's not in the ordinance necessarily.
Okay, so it'd be your opinion then, all outdated and
All of those
remove
are.
all of them, right?
Yeah.
Well, the original ordinance dates from 1941, so it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
a little bit different.
Before you remove everything, let me just read one quick
Sure.
thing here. I'm trying to, well, I heard you say signatories. I think we should at least have an ordinance that says how we form our signatories. I'm just not seeing where that says it at.
There is some.
Is that-
there
There's
is some
signatories on
Yeah,
4C.
There is one where it lists like, where it lists like the mayor, and I believe the clerk, and
Yeah, it says village president, village clerk,
Yeah.
sewer and water department manager, and or village
Yeah.
treasurer.
I mean, and I know we've done that, I just think it should be, we need to make sure we have that in an ordinance form. If it's not this one, then create a new one. That way, down the road,
It
nobody
stays.
tries to say, hey, I'm just gonna, create my own
wait,
signatories
is
or.
that C? That's C.
Yeah,
Okay.
or.
Okay, sorry.
Which obviously that one's outdated because it
The very
says for
bottom,
a
yeah.
specific bank and
I know
everything, so.
it's A, B, D, and E are all outdated. C, what's being done actually conflicts with the ordinance just because we have trustee sign as a signatory. And that doesn't say that, but it's been approved by the legal
Yeah.
way, so. Does that make sense for your notes?
Yeah, I got it, I
Um,
think.
Dick, you and I already talked about 33.002, and we agreed with that.
Okay, 3302 annual payment, and what that thing goes back to 71 is the sewer and water departments will pay to the village $10 per fire hydrant. I mean, that's gone. Um, 3303, purchases by village employees. We need to update this, as far as I'm concerned, and what it is how much that either John Green, the police chief, whoever, fire chief, how much they can spend without having approval from the village, from the board. So
Oh.
what's your thoughts on that?
As someone on the inside,
Pardon me?
as someone on the inside, I would recommend, if you're gonna put a limit in place, to maybe make it through their supervisor rather than the board, because if you have to make an emergency purchase.
No problem, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to call one person than to call 8 and get a consensus. And a lot of these things, like, doesn't necessarily affect me, but I know, like, if something happens on one of John's pumps or something, you know what I mean? Like,
He's got to spend $1,000, $2,000 like that. so.
yeah, so maybe do it based on purchase rather than money amount, or something with the direct supervisor. I see where you're going with that, because obviously I think all of us would rather, as employees, also know our limits, you know what I mean? And know,
Yeah.
be very clear of the, you know, the expectation. But we still need to be able to do village business.
So about everybody answers to Harry though, right?
Yeah.
All the department heads do.
Okay.
John's usually the only one that, I'm not saying that there couldn't be an emergency.
Did they check with you?
Oh, yeah, I get calls all the time, but John's usually the only one that's, I wanna say an emergency, I'm not saying that we couldn't have like a squad car go down or something like that, but it's usually, like she said, it's usually water pumps or
Right.
sewer pumps or something of that sort that's, hey, we need to get this fixed by tomorrow, and those are about the only ones that usually are
Okay, so I'll change
real
that to
emergencies.
check with supervisor for the,
It does mention though that.
But there still should be, sorry, but there's still probably an amount though, like, check
Yeah.
with supervisor if it's over, I don't know, $1,500, because I don't want them calling me every time it's $500 either. I mean,
let's go with $1,000.
But what purchases are you talking about though? Are you talking about, I don't know, cause I think that's kind of a difficult area. Sometimes I don't think we're clear enough to the department heads about what we wanna know about. So I think this is a good place to clarify that. So there's no question, because I don't necessarily wanna know about purchases, yeah, that are normal purchases, that, like, I don't want them to be overburdened, and I don't want to know all that. I mean, we don't need to micromanage. So I think there's a potential for us to micromanage.
well, yeah, tires,
And
I
I
don't
don't
know who
want-
said it, but that's a good example, because tires on one of these SUVs could easily
Right.
be over
And
$1,500.
we don't wanna call on that, because
And-
obviously you need that.
And it's not an emergency, it's a
Yeah.
wear item that if it needs tires, go get tires.
So I don't know how you word
So-
that, because a lot of times, I don't like to say budgeted items, because a lot of times I think that's thrown at us as board members, that, well, it was in the budget, but we didn't know about it, so that's kind of a weird thing too. I don't know, I don't know the right verbiage.
Well, the only way is if you put, basically you're trying to split it, so you're trying to say whether it's for work or whether it's for personal self-agenda. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, and I don't know how you clear that up, because that's why they're department heads, because you wanna have a trust in them for spending our money responsibly, but then I feel like there's a big gray area though, because it's hard to be totally clear, and I'm sure you as department heads feel that way. I don't mean to say that, put words in your mouth, but if I was a department head, I would feel confused about what we want.
I think we're all learning, we've learned more than the board wants more things, so the longer we all work together, I think we're getting that. But I also feel like we gotta remember that you're looking at $5 million in appropriations. So if you're talking about $1,000 limit, think how many phone calls that could make, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
Well,
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You have to split it somewhere where,
Yeah.
like you say, you don't wanna
Yeah, I
get
don't wanna
calls for
have all
tires
those
or this.
calls, right.
It almost has to be worded in there of other than work-related?
Well, hopefully they're all work related.
So I don't know if it'd be out of the normal scope of,
Well, something like
How do you-
tires would be a normal wear and tear thing that you're gonna expect. I would
Right.
think that calls we would want would be something like over $3,000. It's an emergency situation.
or something we've never purchased
Something
before.
went
or-
down
yeah.
that they're, we need $3,000 to spend on it, whatever the limit is. We
Maybe
need to
this is-
spend that right now to get that fixed.
Maybe this is something we could ask Rob that he's ran into before.
Yeah, the word, what verbiage,
Yeah.
because to me, I don't wanna say budgeted items, because my take on a budget is it's just a guideline. So if it's in the budget, that doesn't mean I'm gonna vote yes for it, and I think we all feel that way. But that's not saying you guys pad your budgets or anything, but I don't think the budget thing is applicable here,
I think
because,
it's a guideline, and I mean, just because it's budgeted, I think Tiffany's told department heads many times, that doesn't mean we have the money.
right.
Well, I was just thinking about the, I'm not picking on the fire department, but the concrete pad behind the fire department being a very large, it was 140 grand or whatever. That would be kind of an oddball deal to be like,
And it was budgeted for.
yeah, to be like, oh,
Yeah,
it's
there's
like
that. It was in
3
the-
weeks into the fiscal year, let's throw it at it, and maybe like Tiffany would go, the money's not in the bank account yet, that's a perfect kind of thing.
Because that was kind of out of the scope of things. So yeah, maybe ask Rob on the verbiage, because I just feel we need to be clearer with department heads, because there shouldn't be a question, and I don't know if you guys want a bunch of calls, but I don't. But then there are, I get upset about things that I don't know about, but those are usually out of what I consider the normal scope, if that makes sense. But then my idea of what the normal scope is could be different
That's the thing.
than what you guys think the normal. Because somebody would be like, what's the big deal, Paula? I'm like, well, for me it was, but how do we know?
We all have different.
Yeah,
discretionary
we all have different scopes.
Opinions,
Yeah. I just feel like it's important that you guys are clear what we want to know about.
I think Dick's idea, I don't necessarily agree with the same $1,000, because that tires can, to set an amount on there and say if it's gonna be over this amount, unless it's an emergency, and I don't think it's a big deal to call the mayor or whoever. I know even with Johnny, he's called the mayor and called other council members to say, we got a big problem. Unfortunately, you don't know the next chief of police or the next John if they're gonna follow. Tiffany kind of nailed it. We know what this council, we've been around long enough to know what this council accepts and what they don't. The next guy may not.
But the only thing, and this is nothing against Rich, but the only thing with you saying, let's say we set it $1,000 and we just voted upon a board on something that was less than $1,000. See what I'm saying? So that's where it has to be worded.
Yeah, I don't know that the limit counts. I mean, I
See what
don't
I'm
know that
saying?
we need a
Because then,
monetary limit.
let's say, the next police chief comes in and then we have an issue with under $1,000 like we had before, and they're gonna say, what was under $1,000? It's
Yeah.
right here in the book.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So it has to be
I think
some
the-
kind of wordage.
The wordage you're looking at is maybe maintenance of a vehicle, maintenance of equipment, something like this.
Without getting into too much detail on that, I will say though, that whole thing, where with even that book, like that, which is the example you just brought up, like that would be then a supervisor thing too, when that would have been between the mayor and the board. So there's some things that,
Well, that's what I'm saying, but it's
You know
gotta
what
be
I mean?
worded right, so,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
yeah, so but if you would have had supervisor, you know what I'm saying then? Like with supervisor permission, then it becomes completely different.
Right.
So that's where I'm saying like we need to word this better so we're answering to the supervisor and then the board,
And that sounds kind of like the places that I've worked. I was just thinking back to the park district that I worked at. They had kind of even like run-of-the-mill stuff that was over $5,000. They wanted, and it went through the supervisor or whatever, but to then give the
So you had
the
an amount?
park board a heads up. And so I didn't do that at my current job once when I was buying computers for a class and a program, and it was not a new deal, but it was like $9,000 worth of computers. And then the superintendent got, I guess, an earful at a board meeting from a board member for, what's this, $9,000? And it's federal tax money that I spend. It's not even out of the general fund, but they didn't know that. And he's like, hey, give me a heads up. And I was like, oh, yeah, I really should have done that.
And that's all we ask is heads up most of the time.
And
you
so
know.
I think like on something smaller than that, I don't think anybody would bat an eye if, where I work now, if the, you know, my boss said, yeah, it's $1,200, $1,500, nobody cares. Not nobody cares, but you know, it's all good. Go ahead and do your thing. But if it was like $15,000 or, I mean, that's different. But if it was $5, $6 grand or whatever, he just wants to give the board a heads up. And so maybe, I mean, that might be more of a rule for whoever the, I don't know, supervisors, department heads, whatever. If something comes up and, you know, you can take a squad car in for new tires, and then it actually needs, you know, new transaxle, and you know, they find other stuff that was wrong and you have to pay for to fix. I think in my mind, where I've worked, it would be like you would, you know, shoot Harry a text saying, hey, it's more than we thought. And then, you know, he might call people or email or whatever, the people up here, and then it just kind of follows that chain. Rather than expecting kind of like when I get calls from John, you know, we lost a pump over there, and so we're doing this, and I'm like, all right, thanks for letting me know, you know.
Does he expect you to call everybody else?
No, I assume
No,
he
just calls.
And sometimes he'll say, I've already called, you know, Paula, I've already called, you know, whoever, and I'm gonna call these other people.
See, and I hate that you guys have to make like individual calls.
Right, which is, it's kind of what I'm getting at. Like,
Yeah.
It's cool that he tells me that sometimes when it's like, there's a lightning strike and the lift station is on fire, and I'm like, go deal with that. Stop talking to me. You know, that's something that like he'll tell you so that you know, and then you can tell me. I don't know if that was as clear as mud or not.
Yes.
It's a gray area, it's just gotta be worded
Clear as
correctly.
mud.
I mean,
No, I get
it's
what
kind
you're
of I don't think you can like absolutely carve it in granite, you know, codify that type of stuff. I think it's a person's discretion.
And I don't know that you can I don't like putting a monetary limit on it.
Yeah,
Well,
I
this
don't
is
know
something
that.
to bring up the 2 weeks or
To the attorney
find
maybe,
the
because
attorney.
Yeah,
a limit just doesn't seem like that's gonna be applicable to every situation. And that's what we're looking for, is something that like blankets every possibility, and if it's like, I don't know, financial limit is not going to fit every situation we have. Look how much what just happened with the lightning strike, that was, it's a little above, but no one's gonna say no to that.
yeah. And I don't even know if the park district's rule was in the board policy or if it was just the finance director's rule. You know, just kind of a personnel thing. Because I mean, I'm sure big financial purchase for, you know, police is different from fire, different from the office.
And this lumps it all together, doesn't it? It just says village employees.
Yeah,
It's all lumped together.
The more we talk about it, the less I see a single blanket that'll cover the whole thing.
Let's move on.
Good idea.
Taxes, 33.015, fire protection tax. This was passed in 51. We don't have a fire protection tax, so I suggest we eliminate that.
Or should we collect the fire protection tax?
No. 3316 tax rate for corporate fund, delete it. 33017 automobile renting use tax. We do collect, or somehow we get a little money for tax, don't we, Tiffany?
No, I think there may have been at one point maybe a rental place in the village, because I have a code for that, but since I've been there, we've not ever seen
Okay,
Oh, would that cover like a
leave it there.
like a U-Haul or something? I mean, somebody
It
can always
should.
move
Probably
that
would,
in.
yeah.
any vehicle.
Yeah.
I think I'd leave that in there.
Yeah.
Let's see, use taxes. Okay, 33018 is a use tax and refers to sales tax for cars and vehicles. These fees are collected by the state in ordinance 449, passed in 1974. That should be eliminated because we have no bearing on that at all.
Right, we just get the payment from the
Right.
state.
And then you go down to telecommunications and infrastructure maintenance fee. If anybody can figure this out, they're way above me because we get a little money back for this and that and all that, and I just put down no changes recommended. Also, tax rights and responsibilities from 3305 to 33066. No change is recommended, but as it is the opinion of the board that no taxes are being collected. But in the event something did materialize, the ordinance would be established. Tax increment financing interested party registration, or registry. All this deals only with the registry of the original TIF district, no action needed. Penalty is $33,999. And again, 50, 100, whatever we need to do there. Chapter 34 is town policies, 3401, 32, and 3003. I had no changes necessary.
30,
Let me look here.
3404, where are you at now?
I think I-
340123.
3401.
3404 needs to be updated, I think. I've got a mark on it,
Okay.
just as per contract, I think.
233.
Well, and we updated the,
3404 is the
yeah.
residency.
and we
then-
updated the fire
Yeah.
department, and then the rest would be per contract. So we already updated that one.
Okay. And then contracts 34, all the way 34.15 to 3426. Been reviewed and no changes are recommended. This is bids on how to take bids.
Dick,
Yes, ma'am.
3417, I had marked that at the bottom,
Advertisement for bid.
yeah, at the bottom, in italics, Jacksonville Journal Courier, and Jacksonville Journal Courier's twice in there. I think we had talked one time about just changing it to local media in case, again, the name ever changes.
Yeah, we did, and then we also talked about just one, whichever was cheaper. We talked about that during the budget.
Right, so if we just say local media, would that cover it?
Yes.
Okay. That way we, can do whatever we need to do. So that's where it's italicized there.
You got anything from me further?
I don't think so.
I think everything.
You just didn't want to stay and listen to all this?
Title 5 is Public Works General
Bring some food
Provision.
back.
Yeah. You're welcome to
5001
go.
and 5002.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
No changes made, combination of waterworks and sanitary sewer. Okay, this was under John, been reviewed, no changes were asked. 51 is garbage and recycling. Now Greg, you were talking earlier, somebody was down there about collecting money.
Oh, that was him right next to
Oh,
you.
Yeah.
that's right, I'm
It
sorry.
was the other big guy.
The other big guy.
I know we look the same, but
It was his twin down there.
And you don't spit, see, like.
there you go.
At one time, the village paid $2 on the monthly bill for recycling, and we have given all that up. It's now handled by the garbage haulers at the cost of consumers. There is a resolution that where the village determines whether or not they're going to continue this program. It hadn't been used for several years, so I'd say get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They used to do it out there where FS is, and they had a towable trailer, and everybody coming into town would fill this thing. Very seldom ever used
Really?
by here.
Yeah.
There's nobody in recycling.
No. 510.2 is garbage and refuse, no changes.
What the heck is that?
Nice.
Who got
I
that?
don't know, but I was actually getting ready to offer that.
I'll worry you now.
I swear.
That must have been Tim that paid for it then.
Hey,
Where are you now?
Where are
hey,
you?
Hope we're getting
I
anchovies.
even you searched it.
Under
that
penalties
still a
there,
topic?
this should reflect the property maintenance codes as to the amounts and fines.
Dude,
And again, go back to the 50 and 100 if it's there. 52 is electricity. We don't need to do anything there because we have the electrical aggregation agreement that was passed in 2013.
Yes.
And so far, that has worked very good. I'll give you a very quick little do on that.
Because I can
was-
smell that pizza, so make it quick.
I was code enforcement then, and I went through every single one of the businesses and residents in South Jacksonville, there's over 1,500 of them, and changed them to South Jacksonville instead of Jacksonville, because at that time, when you put in 62650, it never mentioned South Jacksonville. And now it did, but that was through the help of the congressman at that time. Not Darren, but the other guy. Right with it?
Watson?
No, it wasn't
No,
Watson.
Aaron, Jock, was it?
No, one
No.
Shot, the guy before Shot.
That'd be Ray LaHood.
Ray LaHood.
Yeah.
It was
right with
Darren's
it.
dad.
So, but anyway, we got South Jacksonville back on the map.
Well, that can make a
50.
difference with the sales tax collected too.
Yes, yes. 53 is water, 53001, conservation and use of water in periods of drought. This was established in 53. It was John's Green suggestion that we leave this in so we do have some type of measurement in the event we would ever want to declare a drought. And we could use this and versus trying to write something else or not having anything into effect. I got no problem with that.
Except on just B, just change that to local media. Again,
Okay,
in that italicized there.
Oh, yeah.
I've never even heard of the Jacksonville Daily Journal.
there were two newspapers in
Yeah,
Jacksonville at one
had the
time.
morning and the afternoon edition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
Some years
Daily
ago.
Journal and
The
They
Daily
had-
Journal?
Yeah, they had
Journal
the-
was the morning issue and the
Daily
Courier
Journal.
is the afternoon
It
issue.
actually had two papers.
was
Yeah.
that back when they had wooden tires?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was passed in 53. I came to town in the late 70s, and it was Jacksonville Journal Courier, so that
Yeah.
had to be between 50s and 70s.
Yeah, it was from
Day or two ago.
1950 and back.
Wow.
Okay.
So that's
53002 is connections of water line to Oxville. My suggestion, no changes there. 5303, water changing during new construction. Again, temporary meter, no changes according to John. 53004, tampering with systems. Review the penalty charges under the section 53999. Now, I think we need to up the penalties there, because if we catch somebody illegally hooking on water or whatever, it's more than parking your car in the driveway wrong or something, so we'll change that. And we have to go eat pizza right now for 5 minutes because this little gal.
Yeah, I was about to make a motion to press pause.
Yeah.
Motion
Pause
for,
has been pressed.
yeah, 5-minute recess.
Motion for.
Start on page 6 when we come back, you people
Okay.
from the media. Okay, I'm gonna start again here, guys. Page 6,
Okay.
there's no changes recommended there.
I don't know that anyone told
John
them to start.
recommended that we update that one part there under 53025. Amount of fines, and we brought this up earlier, it needs to be adjusted for modern times, and that was done in 2002 and 2011, and this is 53999, so we need to. look
Where,
at
which
that.
number are you on, Dick?
53.999, page 6 of these.
I turned it too fast.
Okay.
Gotcha.
John said there's nothing needs to be changed under 5401.
Okay.
5408, John recommended the whole section be replaced with a current application. Under private sewage disposal application, his suggestion was the whole application be deleted under commercial and others industrial sewer application, said this application should be replaced. So, no problem there. 5420 on page 7. There is a rate change and A, B, and C be deleted from the publication. So if you want to go there, it's 5420.
Man, we're still on.
It is page 50 of Public Works.
Oh, thanks.
Well, that's the second part. I've got it in mind. that just when we
5420
talk
on
about
the
it.
rates and all that stuff,
Yeah.
it's on page 50 of the South Jacksonville Public Works.
Those two need to be separated.
And that there, the rate changes, they're all outdated, so take them out.
Okay.
Let's see, 5420. Include it. 21, bills delinquent after 6 days, service discontinued, $15 reconnect fee. That is now $100 fee, $50 on, $50 off. And we need to, that needs to be reflected in this new one. 5422 liens and all that, John said they're fine, leave them alone. Traffic code, motor vehicle tax or license fees, that's way outdated. Delete that section. And what that was, they used to have a motor vehicle tax on your car, and they charge you like $5 or something.
Had to have a sticker on the
Sticker on
windshield.
the window.
Yeah.
So that's all gone. Traffic signal maintenance provisions, delete this section, says the ordinance passed but does not have a date of ordinance. That's 70.12.
Hey, Dick,
Yes, sir.
Tim looked like he was going to say something.
Then he got scared. Like, stop.
Dick, if I could, under traffic code, and this may not be the appropriate place.
Where at?
The page 7 of your revisions, is there somewhere in there, and what's the council's feeling or feedback in reference to the police department would like to do something that a lot of communities are doing, and that is add a $25 fee to the tow bills. It's called an administrative fee, and it covers ours. I'm not sure where it would go into the ordinance, but I know that in order to do it, we have to have an ordinance on it. So we thought that this would be the appropriate time to at least introduce it and see what the council's feeling is.
I got no problem with that at all. So, and like Bill's towing, he charges $100, you're gonna get $100 a quote.
Yes, sir.
Is he gonna collect it, or are you gonna, how they gonna do this?
We a lot of times will collect for him.
Okay.
Just so it's one-stop shopping, so I think it could be either. I think as long as they know, or whatever tow company knows, when we tow a vehicle, we put a hold on it for various reasons, and this would just be a hold for, if there's proof of insurance, proof of valid registration, proof of a valid driver, this would just be another hold proof administrative $25 fee.
They impound all those vehicles they tow for you?
I'm sorry.
Do they impound all of them?
Yes, sir.
I know Tom Finch's got a fence around it where they lock it up, so.
How many abandoned cars do you get anymore? Any?
If Paul and I had a long conversation about this over a year ago, we don't do abandoned, as far as towing them. We've approached it in a little different manner as far as leading up to the point where we're going to issue a citation. But there's a gentleman that lives on Village Lane that we've got a group of guys getting together to push his car into the garage. I believe it's tomorrow. So.
They used to have the city of Jacksonville, we did a lot of towing, we had a towing business. And they finally got to the point, they just went in, they got a junk title on these vehicles. And that ended them,
We've done that on several occasions when it's an arrest situation, but the vehicle was never titled in the arrestee name.
Right.
It was an open title, class 4 felony, so
title or we've actually gone to court with them and had them sign it.
Golf carts, we're not even gonna go there, all reviewed, no changes recommended. Chapter 72 is traffic regulations. All traffic regulations are subject to state laws, which will take precedence over any local law. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Speed limit, no changes recommended. 7203, school crossings intersection. Discussion of this, and was the belief of Chief Man that this was not required. This is for A and B. Article C is in reference to a driver disobeying or ignoring a traffic signal, covered under state law, covered under ordinance 223 passed 1954, suggested it be eliminated. Okay. Driving over freshly oiled streets. And they're talking about tractors with plugs is what they're talking about. No changes recommended there. Page 8. Reasonable speed in racing, suggested by Chief Man. All these items are outdated. I think there's one in there about riding a bicycle 8 miles an hour or some damn thing, so. And the whole section should be deleted. Delete ordinance 83, passed in 1927.
Wow.
And penalty is reviewed and recommended. Whole section should be eliminated as fines are determined by the Morgan County court system. On that way, so eliminate all those. Parking regulations, you passed a new regular ordinance last month, right?
Yes, sir.
And chapter 75 is traffic schedules. Recommended the penalties be raised to $50 minimum. We already have talking about that. Schedule 2 is 50 minimum. Schedule 3 is change $5 to $50. Reflect the new traffic flow, because that traffic flow in our book here shows how it used to be, which is no longer. And let's see. Change Schedule 7, lane usage, no changes. Schedule 8. Weight limitation. Ordinance was set up only for Magnolia Drive as discussed at Hardin, Diamond, and every other street except South Main and West Greenwood from South Main to Church Street, and all of East Michigan should be included in this ordinance. Garbage trucks and maintenance trucks should be excluded from the weight limitations. Now that's my feelings on that.
I think that's gonna be another one I think that was passed after this.
Okay,
After
could have
that
been,
document, so I
yes.
think.
Oh, yeah,
we
with
can
the-
do that. Yeah, because I do know you guys have something on that, so that'll get taken care of.
Have you had any more complaints about trucks on Hardin?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, we haven't.
And what I did was, what's her name,
Surprise.
Roby?
Rob 8.
Right.
She called, and I called that company that day, right then, and talked to the guy, it was super nice. He said, I'll get a hold of the guy, and I don't think there's been any more. She hadn't called, you know.
No, she hasn't.
Which trucks on Hardin you talking about? On the south of Michigan?
Yes. They used to run tractor trailers up and down that way all the time.
Okay, so they're coming in and out of Mobile, they have to come from the north.
Most of these were coming in and out of the bookbinder.
Oh, the bookbinder, okay.
And we just said, you know, you need to go around, and they have. Or they go down Vandalia, which I don't care, and go out to Black's Lane and go out that way. You know, but it's pretty rough. Schedule 9 was golf and some crossings, no changes are recommended. General regulations were on page 9. Most of these ordinances have been superseded by the adoption of the 2015 International Property Maintenance Code that was adopted by us in a resolution on October 5th, 2017. If you just look in there, all these are covered by an IPMC. Let's see.
That whole section, Dick, all the 90s.
90.03, dense smoke. It's the only regulation that pertains to this situation, in my opinion. is to retain this ordinance number 234. It was passed in 1955, but delete the section B and substitute the opinion of the designated village employee as to the degree of smoke. So if you were burning, which you're not supposed to, but let's say you were burning used motor oil or a tire or something that really put out a lot of smoke, somebody can come by and give you a ticket for that. If you're just burning lumber, trees and brush and so on that way. 9004, that was put in when people burned coal and they used to throw the ashes and cinders and all that out there to get traction. We don't need that anymore. 9005 is increase the fine to 50 or 100 first offense, and second on the second, 500 on the second offense. And that's people who litter out the window. But again, we can, whatever you think there.
Now, you're talking about just some yahoo throwing a McDonald's sack out on the road?
Not so much as throwing garbage.
Yeah, or a full
You know.
55-gallon bag of
Yeah.
garbage or something like
Right.
that.
I always have trash in my front yard.
Yeah,
People
that
go,
mattress
"Here."
or whatever, you know,
Mattress.
throwing it in the creek
Yeah.
bottom down here, you know, just, people do it.
Oh, we thought we
We throw ours away.
We have had instances
I just throw
where
them
they
in.
throw a couch, and take off, and then you have the instance where the guy uses the stuff next door or the trash container next door, and they get a pizza from Domino's delivered and it has their name on it, so. Yeah.
Do you write any tickets for littering? Like, no?
Be hard to catch some.
Well, again, that would come under ordinances, I think. And
I'm picking up crap on Vandalia all the time when I walk by it. I mean,
You ever seen anybody throw it out?
no,
That's the problem.
Yeah.
no, I haven't, but I mean, it's, you know,
That's the struggle.
it's pretty prevalent.
Oh, I agree.
Nice.
I agree.
But we don't have a ordinance just for,
Yeah, we do. That's what Dick just talked about, but you have to catch them.
You gotta put the match in your hand.
Yeah.
have to have an eyewitness.
Chapter 91 is fire regulations.
Walter sets up trail
If you
cameras.
guys, burning garbage is unlawful, again, no action needed. Hours for burning, this ordinance needs to be reviewed and as to what hours that you can burn, not trash, but wood products, so to speak, you know,
Should be
yard waste. Pardon me?
dawn to dusk.
Yeah,
You can't burn in unlit hours.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the way Jacksonville is.
right.
So, unless it's a recreational fire,
Yeah,
i.e. a winter
In
road.
a burn, concealed.
we have a fire pit.
9104 is refuse and waste on premises. Change the time period from daily to weekly, and by that, a guy takes his garbage out, puts it in a can. Yes, sir.
That 9102, did you, I was listening to a bunch of different things.
That weren't actually
Hours
related.
for
Yeah.
burning, yes.
His sister's beard.
Is that gonna be, I mean, are we cool with people just burning their trash in their backyard in a burn barrel? Like, that's what that,
Trash
That's what it says.
has to be,
well, it says, it shall be unlawful to burn any household refuse or trash except during the hours between sunrise and sunset, during any day, blah, 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 as long as it's burned in an incinerator barrel. I mean, that's saying you can burn your trash like when I was
Right.
growing up in the country,
Right. We don't want
which
that.
would save me $67 a quarter, so maybe I ought to get myself a 55-gallon barrel.
Yeah, but then on the next 9103, it shall be unlawful to burn any garbage or refuge of any kind, nature upon any premises used for commercial purposes at any time of the day or night within the village.
But that's commercial, not
Yeah, I don't run a business out of
Oh,
my
it is
house.
commercial, I'm sorry.
That's
go
all right.
back to the one before that, you can't burn garbage, but under the one you're talking about, you could burn
I mean, it's,
For the
refuse
pizza.
or trash. But I think it needs to be updated to saying
See ya.
wood products only.
bye.
Thank you.
Well,
You're our favorite one.
Tonight.
9102 should be, it shall be unlawful to burn any household refuse or trash, period.
Right.
But like
You say
for,
wood products, and somebody may say,
can't burn pallets anyway, but there's.
What about,
You're right, or I'm gonna tear my garage down, I'm gonna burn it piece by piece.
what's your,
I mean,
and then like I say, like, when I get, I'm kind of coming out on myself here, but when I get car parts and stuff, I burn my, cardboard inside my fire pit.
well,
Fire pit?
Yeah, I got a fire pit too.
Look at
I
you.
got two.
Oh, I only have one.
I built my own
Oh.
out of literally a
So, I
ton
mean,
of bricks.
is that, you know, if you make it no trash burn, is that a, you know?
You just don't get caught.
Right.
Well, shouldn't, if we're saying what is acceptable, somebody said recreational fire. Like if you just say like anything other than recreational fire. Cause like if you're burning some cardboard in recreational fire,
Yeah, because we burn boxes in ours
whatever.
too.
But as long as you're out there like hanging out, you know, you got like a hot dog stick or whatever that you're cooking over it. As long,
Burning couch.
well, no, but I mean, as long as if
Yeah.
no, I mean, like if I were to do that in my yard, and Tom's like, "It's crazy smoke," and then he calls,
That
you know,
wouldn't bother me any.
well, I know, but let's just say for the sake of argument, you get upset, you
I
call.
burn leaves and all that stuff. I don't burn any trash out there though.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think it typically is yard waste.
But I mean, if somebody's burning something and they call you guys, and you send somebody over, and if somebody's burning something that's obviously, you know, garbage, refuse, trash, whatever you want to call it, it's not a recreational thing, and it's not like sticks or leaves in an appropriate container. Even if you're like, I'm having a really good time torching this couch, it's recreational. Like your example, I think that's pretty freaking obvious that it's not a recreational fire.
Right.
Like, I mean, anybody looking at that's going to know you're just.
And there is, you know, that's identified as a recreational fire as watching your fire.
Okay.
Is
I
watching
mean, if
a
you
fire-
get in Jacksonville, it says logs up to 3 inches,
Yeah.
something like
I got an
that.
old trailer full I need to get rid of.
But it doesn't.
No
theirs also-
sawwood, like lumber.
Yeah.
Doesn't theirs also say that you can only burn yard waste? I thought they had a yard waste ordinance.
I don't know about yard waste, 'cause I think.
I think it's,
The limbs can't have.
I think somebody has implemented that in there, I don't think it ever said anything about it. It did say garbage, you can't burn garbage.
Does the new property code maintenance, it doesn't,
It may say something in there,
seems like it.
and it may don't even, you may not even be able to burn, but I think you can. I don't think it covers that.
How about contractors burning construction waste, like when they build a new, that's, can't do it in the village.
Can't burn any kind of processed wood.
Okay.
That's an absolute no-no. Let's go to page 10, fire prevention code. And alternative methods and materials and all that should be in conjunction again with the International Property Maintenance Code. As to fire prevention, no action needed. Enforcement authority, my opinion, this is a very complicated and gray area. Now, this is 9117. And it's a very complicated and gray area as to who has jurisdiction and what do they have jurisdiction of. Most times, if there is a fire, it's inspected by the state fire marshal, and all new commercial buildings are inspected by the state of Illinois. The IPMC covers fire systems, sprinklers, smoke alarms, fire safety, and other issues. But this something needs to be discussed by the committee, because we don't have a fire inspector, and we haven't had one forever, and we have relied upon the state fire inspection guy to come and inspect any new buildings. Help me out here, Todd, because hell, I don't know.
Well, your code enforcement would do your building inspections, wouldn't they? Don't they sign off? Who signs off on the building plan?
When I was the building inspector, I never signed off on it because I didn't want the liability of it. Because you're getting into something,
So who signs off on the site plans?
the,
Are you talking about commercial or
Either.
commercial the state does?
state guys.
Residential?
Residential, we never really signed off on them. We had the plans commission
No, and it
looking
was
over.
explained to us through Dick even that the state said we accepted the liability if somebody locally
Yes.
signed off.
and we didn't want the liability.
Right.
Well, they gotta go by the codes.
Yes,
Anyhow, so, 91.17, I had notes on here to refer to 425 ILCS 25 dash 0.01, the Fire Investigation Act here. When you have a fire, your fire chief has the responsibility to start that investigation. If he feels that it's out of his realm, why, they'll call the state fire marshal in.
okay. Chapter 92 is animals, and we had all kinds of laws and rules on the book, but they're all handled by the Morgan County Animal Control now, which we pay them an annual sum to take care of stray dogs, cats, raccoons, God knows what else. And my opinion, eliminate ordinance 576, and it was passed in 1982. Noisy animals, again, we go back to a penalty charge, and it's $50 on the first, second on the third, $100 on the second, and all further offenses, I put $500.
Can we
But
go back, I'm sorry, to that 92.01?
yes,
Would you think maybe instead of just eliminating the whole ordinance, should we just change it to say that, that we contract with Warren County Animal
We could.
Control instead?
yeah.
Maybe to, you know what I mean, so that we don't just
Should they
say,
got some kind of,
too bad there's nothing if somebody calls up here asking for
Yeah.
something, you know?
Okay, that's no
Then
problem.
we're officially passing
Yeah,
the
it
buck
could
rather
be
than
could be
just.
a dog that's abused or neglected or something, you know, tied up to a tree, and that's why he's barking.
Yeah, so we have something
Mhm.
still on record of what to do with that.
So we just update that, include animal control.
Council, does anybody besides Jason have a problem with me leaving?
How much is work to you?
I think you've made it.
I guess.
You need to tell Rich he left too soon.
That's right.
Dick, I'm wondering about 9203.
Keeping it all,
Yeah,
Not that like that's a bad thing.
but why is that even in here?
because they used to have hogs here in town.
You know, people used to raise their own food.
Right.
But I'm wondering if that should be expanded to more types of livestock or some other way of putting it of like, I don't know, industrial animals or something.
What's an industrial animal?
I don't know, like a goat that you keep for whatever reason, or chickens, or
You know,
keep a
now,
cow.
I think we
Chickens in
passed,
Jacksonville now.
I think we passed the
Yeah.
chicken law out here.
No, we didn't.
We did not.
They brought it up and we just said we weren't even talking about it.
Okay.
We
No
did
free
not
range
even want
chickens
to.
in your backyard.
But there are 2 or 3 places here in South Jacksonville that have chickens.
Well, and that's why I'm asking
There
about.
are.
what?
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, then,
in their backyard.
that's why I'm asking about it though, because you
Kevin
get.
Denny right across the street from you has, down the street from me, he has chickens.
Wait a minute. Who?
Kevin
Where?
Denny.
Where's this at?
On the north side of where the new bar may be going in, that complex in there,
Yeah.
and Kevin Denny runs Precious
Precious Jewelers. He's
and
got
he has
chickens?
He doesn't have
Yeah,
any
they've got
roosters, but
chickens
he
in
has
their
chickens.
backyard.
So,
He's got goats too.
No, there's goats and,
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah,
there's goats in the building.
Huh.
but that's why I'm bringing it up
That's
though.
over here
Like,
though, right? That gal over by the prairie land?
Out here, by the park.
Really?
Who's
I didn't
that?
know that. Somebody's got
Yeah,
goats.
he's got goats and sheep down here, just south of the dog park,
south of the
or
dog park.
south and east of the dog park.
Okay, that's in Jacksonville.
Yeah, across the railroad tracks is out of our jurisdiction.
Oh, that's County County.
Railroad tracks are
Some-
fast, ain't us.
somebody told me, and I don't remember who it was a while ago, that if you go, whatever, past the park, like on the south side of the street, like where the,
South side of the street is the jurisdiction of South Jacksonville, excluding the park.
right, so
And
like the
north
Jehovah's
side is
Witness, and
Jacksonville.
is that the area you're talking about?
But that's the mile and a half.
Oh, okay.
Whatever they call it.
I got you.
We have no zoning out there.
Okay,
They're supposed to come to us to get a building permit and all that stuff.
okay,
We don't charge for it, because we can't, because they're not in the village.
You're talking about on the other side of the tracks, they come to us for
Yes, on the south side.
All the way out to Woods Lane or what?
Yes.
Huh,
Okay.
It's our job to give them a
Yeah.
building permit and all this stuff.
Well, anyway, still,
Yeah.
with the hogs thing, I don't know how you would define farm animal. That's what comes to mind. I know some people keep pigs as pets, but
Pot-bellied
usually
pigs.
they live inside and like pets.
Yeah, are you saying you wanna add something to that?
Well, yeah, I think,
'Cause what do we want in the village?
if it's gonna be cool to have chickens and cows and goats and everything but hogs,
Yeah, it seems,
that seems silly to
it
me.
sounds.
So we either cut that out or add in,
We can add them in there.
however you would define an agricultural animal or something.
Now, Miss Linda down there she had ponies, I don't know if she still does or not, but she had ponies, she had some llamas, she had goats.
Yeah, cause didn't she have a petting zoo at one time?
She had a
Or
petting
a
zoo.
traveling petting zoo? And there was at one time we had horses in the village, cause I've seen old ordinances in there that said you could have a horse in your yard.
Right.
I noticed that.
And they couldn't go past like 12 miles an hour or something.
There was a speed limit on.
No way.
Yeah, legit.
no race horses, huh?
I guess not.
They'd clock you with it,
Yeah.
with a gun.
Todd, do you know if
They count
Jacksonville
gallons.
has a specific thing about horses in town? Or if it's
They-
just,
that's kind of a gray area because,
Jacksonville.
Doctor, what's his name, I think, he's done passed on, but out there by the YMCA, they
Mhm.
have horses, but I think that was,
Judy Williams has them out there.
okay, yeah, I think that was
And I don't think
grandfathered
there's
in.
any ordinance against that.
Huh?
But I don't think there's any ordinance against the horses being out there, so,
I don't think, unless they were grandfathered in, I don't know.
yeah.
okay.
Okay, but I'll go ahead and include farm animals for the next time discussion, so.
Aaron White Williams with the city council would be the lady to talk to. She's the one who fought for the chickens within the city limits. So she would have more information on that. He's the one who won all the shit.
One of the people who lived on Pendick had rabbits, and they kept getting underneath the fence and they never came back. Because the guy on the other side was eating them.
Oh,
Chapter 110, General Provisions, House Movers. There hasn't been a house moved in South Jacksonville in 40 years that I know of, but I'd say keep it on the books in case there is, $500, raise it up to $5, make them get a bond for $25,000 for damages, $500 application fee, things like that. That'd be my suggestion.
You don't want any little houses out here.
Moving houses, that used to be a big deal, moving
Yeah.
houses, you know. Cause they,
Well, Don McNamara's house used to be over by where the Dairy Queen, they moved it over there on West Pennsylvania.
right,
DIY Network has a TV show about people in Texas that will buy like a condemned house, take it to a spot, refurbish it and auction them off. It's very
Yeah.
popular there.
Yeah.
So I guess they build on slabs a lot.
11002 is wholesale business, and my opinion, no action needed except raise the penalty to $50 per day for being non-registered. So you need to register any business, and we have the forms, and we're supposed to register them all.
And I'm gonna tell you, and be really honest with this, I don't know who does it. I don't know if anybody's done it since I've been here.
I used to do it.
Okay,
in
and
the
I think
building
that's
code.
something
Yeah.
that needs to, you know what I mean, like, that we need to figure out.
You don't have any peddlers come in here to get a license?
That's a different thing. We do have that.
That's a wholesale business,
Yeah.
Okay.
and peddlers is all together. We used to have miniature golf and trampoline and miscellaneous entertainment and all that. In my opinion, raise the yearly fees to $250 per year and no proration. Amusement rides to $50 per day for a carnival. And we can, or we don't have to, or we can do it if we want to, or whatever. But it kind of keeps out some of that stuff. This will really go over big. Video gaming terminals. I don't know if we are limited, but my opinion was no changes to the exception of raising the per machine fee from $25 to $100 per machine per
We
year.
can't.
I don't think you can.
Can't?
You have to be home rule to change that.
Is that right?
Mhm.
That's a state law?
Yep.
Okay.
They set the statute on
I remember reading that statute and going, oh yeah, I don't know what we're doing here, $25 is ridiculous. And then I get down to, if you're not home rule, and I'm like, ah.
But you can charge it on the license
Uh-huh.
side, so that's where you make it
Right.
up for it. So.
Chapter 111 is automobile renting occupational tax. No action needed. 11102 is the retailer's occupational tax. It's regulated by the state, but it's our responsibility to report any business that are either not registered or not collecting and paying taxes. And this is something we need to start enforcing, because we have a couple businesses here in town that I believe are not registered with the state. And 11103 is service occupational tax. I don't know if this tax is still in existence, and further information needs to be obtained. I've never heard of a service tax.
I've never heard of that.
So,
So I'm gonna tell you, we've never,
Well, it's-
in 3.5 years, I've not collected any revenue.
Yeah.
hotel and motel tax, no action needed, but better accounting needs to be implemented on that. And I think we're getting a little screwed on this deal because
I bet we are too.
These guys are not reporting everything they should.
Especially if they're getting TIF money, they ought
Right.
to be able to open the books for us.
Is that what that ordinance is called, the South Jacksonville Hotel and Motel Tax Ordinance? I don't think
know.
it's called
There
that,
might be
so
something to it
we might
or
need to
something,
update the name of that.
But that'll be something that I do think within the next year or so that we should
Yeah.
look at more into revising that one.
I do too.
The collection practices and our requirements and all that. But
I
right
think
now-
we also wanted to look at some point at that ordinance, like rewriting, and maybe the part of what we do with the money, because I think it was kind of restricted. I know it wasn't Rob, it was Dan, was he the attorney before that?
Mhm.
Dan had suggested we change some of that wording, so.
South Jacksonville Hotel and Motel Tax Ordinance.
It is called that?
Yeah.
But we don't have any motels,
But we could.
but we could. But if we rewrite the ordinance, we need to make sure that nothing changes here.
And again, the penalty is minimum of $50 a day from the date of infraction. And this is maybe to get these guys to honestly report that.
And that's for the hotel one?
Yeah.
Okay, so then, for the codification purpose then, are you gonna leave that alone, or are you gonna look at revamping it later? And I'm only asking you this because I'm sure the attorney's gonna come back to me and say, what's the intention with that? With some of these, when I send her the.
111.99, the
Yeah.
penalty. I think we need to update it myself. Because I don't remember what it is.
I think it absolutely needs updated, and I'm gonna tell you what, the ordinance now does not match what they were practicing before anyway, with like with late fees and, things like that. But,
Nothing less than $50, no more than $200.
Right.
So do these Airbnbs, they have to be registered?
They're supposed to be. Because legally they are a hotel motel operation. They're in business to do it.
where are you from, people here have this?
We have some.
Well, it is, but
I don't think, I haven't seen it.
it's a rising deal. I mean, there's a lot of people that do it.
It's true.
The only one I know of legally is Blessings on,
State Street.
yeah,
There's a lot more there
oh yeah.
in Jacksonville.
There's that little cabin south of town.
The
Oh,
DeWolf
Scotty
guy,
just opened that one, yeah.
that DeWolf man has several
Yeah.
along State Street.
What cabin are you speaking about?
Airbnbs?
So,
Really?
Like
I don't know.
refurbished the
Nothing
big
about
houses.
Louisville?
It's got a
No,
few
I don't-
of 'em.
I think it's like out around like the old airport road.
Oh, you're talking about Brian Leonard's cabin.
Dick, I absolutely agree with you that it needs to be reworked. but I just wonder if maybe the board wants to look at the ordinance as a whole, since you know it needs to be reworked,
Mhm.
instead of just adding that in.
Right.
You know what I mean, like what I'm saying, and kind of
Cause
have
it's,
this for now.
I don't remember when it was first come in, but it's been long enough in there that they figured out how to beat us. Chapter 112 alcohol, I didn't see anything really other than update and reflect the current license and ordinances. No action needed on anything else, other than penalty, change the amount of fine to $500 minimum and delete B and C. And I gotta go look and see what B and C
B is the license, shall be known as a restaurant or lodging license. Issuable only in licensed premises where more than one half or income derived thereon comes from the sale of restaurant lodging services, and shall entitle the license to sell at retail on the premises license any liquor, wine, or beer consumption on or off licensed premises, including package sales.
Where you at?
You said B, right?
Okay, this is penalty, 112.99, B,
No.
and not fined more than $100 or shall be imprisoned, I'd bump that up to $500 or so. Put some teeth in this stuff, you know.
$500.
Yeah.
Peddlers and solicitators, this
There we
is
go.
page 11 at the very bottom.
Did you say solicitators?
Solicitators. Solicitation. And 11301, no action needed. You also know the definition should include cable TV services, insurance services. These are people that would have the application. I really think 11306 is fee for licensing. My opinion, fee should be raised $100 per day for a 2-day minimum. And get away from this stuff, because I still have people coming to the house wanting to sell this or cable TV or whatever, and they do real good till I say, I'm a trustee out here, and then it's get the hell out. You know, so. And a penalty, raise the minimum fine to $500. And I think if Tim was here, he'll agree, he has problems with these people.
Yeah, and you're not trying to stop kids from selling candy bars. You
No,
know what I mean? Like,
no,
you're trying to stop
absolutely
that
not.
energy crap and the, you know, the satellite stuff. So.
114 is foreign insurance companies. The whole section should be eliminated, which is ordinance 191 passed on 9/9/1950. There's a whole bunch of little ordinances in there, so get rid of
Foreign
them.
insurance company.
Chapter 130, general offenses, truancy. This is something I don't really want to get into on that.
Wait, sorry.
I'm
Dick.
sorry, go ahead.
Back to 114.
114, okay?
Would that have anything to do with the foreign insurance tax that we talked about?
Foreign fire insurance tax is collected by the Illinois Municipal League and then it's distributed.
Okay, so nothing with that deleting that would affect
No.
anything with that? Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
130, chapter 130 is the general offenses, 130.02 and 03, no action needed. And 131 was truancy, soliciting during Halloween. I don't want to jack with Halloween laws. 130.03,
Halloween alone.
discharging firearms and the like. It's on there, they say they can't do it, and I think we'll just leave it. Discharging firearms and fireworks and the like. And it says,
People do it
right,
anyway.
not supposed to fire, discharge a gun or whatever. Firecrackers, rockets, torpedoes and all that, not supposed to, but they're gonna do it, so they
Yeah.
don't do it in the middle.
I mean, do you wanna?
I would absolutely love to raise the penalty on that to $500.
Damn it! I said it first.
You did. I really, really hate it when I'm sitting at home,
Oh,
just
yeah.
got my son to sleep, and it's hot part of the summer and
Man.
from 2 blocks over.
That was really loud.
Good
That's
one.
what I hear in my house.
Yeah.
And I hate that
It
so
could
much.
just be down your street, cause you've got a busy house at the end of your street.
There is a busy house at the end of my street, but I can usually see them from my living room looking to the east. Unless you're talking about my retired neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
Decorations on fire.
I heard those Jordans are pretty noisy.
130.04, and somebody was asking about horses and all this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You can't go more than 6 miles,
Oh, that's it.
6 mile an hour. And you can't beat the horse with a whip or
That's
injure him.
faster careless driving.
So I think that was passed, they don't know when it was passed.
It doesn't say, so
No,
it's
so
that
damn old,
old.
they didn't know, so my suggestion was to delete it.
It says you
And
can't otherwise abuse any dumb animal.
Well, what about a smart animal?
That's terrible
Oh,
wordage.
what about smart
There's
animal?
something in there to
Smart
laugh
animal?
at.
That's terrible. And it doesn't even have a date, that's how old
No.
it is.
So I have a feeling that
Drugs
ordinances
and
like that were
substances-
passed on like
substances.
day one.
131.01, no action needed, as that's all by the cops and by the laws they have, subject to federal and state laws. Should be updated to reflect any new state or federal regulations. And we have to remember too that the marijuana law will be coming into
Oh,
effect
yeah.
here pretty quick. Title 15, land use and general provisions. The only thing I had there was 150.99, raise the minimum fine to $50. Page 12 is at the bottom of that, is 151.02 is a building inspector, no action taken. 151.02 is a fire inspector. My opinion, delete this position as we have no one, have not had a fire inspector for a period of years. New commercial construction is inspected by the state fire marshal. And under the IPMC adopted by the village, there are sections under fire directed for systems, alarms and all that. I see no present reason to be established, to reestablish the fire inspector position, and we should delete this ordinance passed in 1989. Now, if you want to discuss, we can, no problem.
No, but back to the building inspector, that was Phil?
That was Phil.
So
And we
what
should have
are we
said
doing?
something to Harry and
Yeah, what are we doing about that? Do we have an official
John
letter of
said they were
resignation?
going to, are you
I
looking
have a
for?
draft that'll be in the source this Thursday and next Thursday.
But we haven't accepted his letter of resignation, so we can't officially post something, can you, or
I
can?
think so,
You
because
can?
he's already moved, I mean, he's moved positions,
Okay,
so.
but we
I mean,
need
I
to be
don't-
sure to get a letter from him that he's leaving that.
I
position.
don't know that he necessarily needs a letter of resignation, because it was a transfer within.
Well,
So-
but does it appear that it's an open position then? I don't know, I just know with teaching, we've gotta have we have to have a letter of resignation before we can post.
Are you union?
Yeah, they're union.
We are union, so that's why, okay. So, we can do whatever we want then.
No, we can't. But we were okay with this one, this was
Okay.
all ran by Rob.
Perfect,
so-
then that's perfect.
151.03 is construction
But I
of
have
an
a fire
entrance from
pit.
private property to a public right of way. That's already covered in there, no action needed. Basement drainage, 151.04. That's all subject to the building requirements and plumbing codes required by the state.
Something for everything.
151.05 is street openings. Currently, we charge $250 for a street opening and the contractor being responsible for the opening. Permit is required, insurance is required, contractor is required to fill the hole with sand and gravel, and the village is responsible for the asphalt covering after a period of settlement. And this ordinance should be changed to reflect these corrections. Now, the corrections being is the insurance required and required to refill the hole with sand and so on that way. So if you look at our 151.05, just kind of make sure that you understand what we're doing there and what corrections there need to be done. Driveway culverts, no actions needing. Plumbing inspection, 151.2, no action needing down to building permits. And reason being is it's all covered by the state of Illinois plumbing department, or the plumbing inspection and all that stuff like that. Building permits, no action needed on that. here is 151.49, application filed with village clerk. Currently, the application is filed with the building inspector and not with the village clerk, as it said. And upon his determination, the application is accepted, refined, or returned. Building inspector issues the permit on his own judgment. Depending on the application, it may be referred to the plans commission or may be granted by the building inspector. Once the permit has been issued, then it is binding on the village. It is my opinion this could cause a conflict and that all new construction projects be presented to the plans commission or a created board before the issuance of a building permit. The ordinance 166 should be eliminated or changed to reflect this. Now, what happened in the past one time was where if on the south side of the eating establishment out here, Olive Branch, you see this double-decker sign. You go down the street on Minor Drive, you see this double-decker sign. Those are illegal in the village, and they're too close to the other ordinances we have. But one of our building inspectors, who was dying of cancer, issued these on a Friday, and they were up Monday. Issued them on Friday, and they were up Monday. And I just always knew, thought in my own heart that, you know, this guy did something illegal to do this. But that's because he had the power to give that permit, bang, boom, out the door. And they raised it, and they were up and gone before anybody really kind of knew what happened.
Like Ron Walls.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we give this, nowhere can I find where the building inspector had the authority to issue building permits, and I did when I was here. You know, they just said, okay, you're the man, go do it and all this. And I think that's way too much power in one person's hands because we have to live with those mistakes.
It does say in the job descriptions that that's one of their duties, is to
Pardon?
issue building permits.
I'm sorry.
It does say in the job description, one of their duties is to issue permits, but as far as by ordinance, you're,
Right.
yeah. that's-
But they have no authority by ordinance to do that. And I have no problem with roofs and room additions and
Fence
stuff
or
like this,
something.
you know, but to build a new house or construct a commercial building or something like this, this needs to go down the pike here a little bit. This needs to be looked at before they issue this permit, because when that permit is issued, guys, whether it be a liquor license or a building permit or whatever, you're bound to it. You are bound to it. So it'd be my suggestion that we change it.
I think you're talking just codifying a procedure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, granting of permits. Again, be referred to a created board for approval of the building permits of new construction. This ordinance is 166, was passed in 8/29 of 46 and should be updated or a new one created. So this is the granting of the permits. And it specifically says in there to refer to a created board for approval or of the building permits of new construction. Evasions, 151, in my opinion, no change is required. Fees, I would raise some of these fees. Currently, we're getting $10. We need to get $25 on a re-roof. We need $25 on a demolition. We need to increase $4 per $1,000 valuation, which is a 25% increase. But these people really don't care. They don't think
Yeah, they
anything
don't
about
care.
that because
Right. They're gonna pay
they're
whatever
gonna pay
it
it
is.
when it's
Yeah.
coming in. So swimming pools is covered under that other deal, the
What
maintenance
about-
code. Pardon me?
Fences for swimming pools, is that in the maintenance code?
Is under the maintenance code and they're 4 foot high.
4 foot, okay.
And ours is 6 foot. So you have to, and we passed it and said anything in here supersedes anything else, so it's now 4 foot high fence.
Yeah, because there are plenty of people that don't have 4 foot, there's 3 foot fences that a lot of people
Right.
have.
I don't know how they get away with them, like, our insurance company had to come out and inspect ours.
Really?
Before they would even, yeah.
Cause my neighbor, they've got a really nice in-ground pool, but they only have a 3 foot
Really?
fence. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's just my neighbor, it's not me, but
Rob up the street.
Yeah, it's a really nice pool.
Swimming pools, no action is needed. It spells out in there how many gallons, how big they are, should be and all that, no problem. 152 is floodplain areas. This is all determined by FEMA and federal or state agencies and so marked. And you can go right on to the website of Jacksonville, South Jacksonville, and see if you're in the floodplain. If you are, you can build a house in there, but you have to have a special permit from FEMA and or the state people to do that.
Do we actually have floodplains out here in the village?
Yes, sir. The whole,
Where, for
I
instance?
call it Southbrook, but it's not Southbrook. What is that?
Southland Park or?
Southland.
That's
South-
a, it's
Right
a
over
South-
that
flood.
creek.
Whole Southland is in a flood.
Is that
Not-
right?
Not the whole Southland,
Huh.
but the very far east end of it is. The whole creek down in there is in a floodplain. So,
Well, is it my understanding that one side of the street is in the village and the other is not? Is that Southland I'm thinking of?
no, that whole thing is in South Jacksonville.
Huh.
We're talking Southland.
Southland, yeah.
You're talking right past.
Out by the bank out there.
Right. Just past the bank.
Yeah.
That whole thing is in South Jacksonville.
Yeah.
How come
Subdivision.
Southbrook was never annexed to the, because of the
Southbrook was
railroad
never
track have
annexed
something to do
to
with
the
it?
city or the village. Southbrook stands by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is another point of history. The great village of Woodson, Murrayville Fire District,
Mm-hmm.
they ran up there and they got them in their fire district.
Mhm.
So they got a tremendous amount of money, taxes, and here's where mutual aid comes in. They don't have enough equipment to fight anything out there. So if they do, they would call South Jacksonville or Jacksonville to come out to assist them if you had a fire out there.
Mm-hmm.
And they would get paid for it, and we wouldn't get nothing. That's the beauty part of mutual aid. But thank God nothing's ever happened, and we would go, there's no problem, you know. But again, it's kind of ornery, you know. 'Cause that house could burn down by the time they get all the volunteers in Woodson to come
Oh,
up
yeah.
there and get it
Yeah.
going. So. Subdivisions, I called Jimmy Burke on this. There's nothing been changed in there. Or nothing should be changed, amended, or added, or anything. Chapter 154. I found really nothing in there, and I used to deal with this all the time. But we need to make use of digital signs. There is nothing that in our book that covers digital signs, such as the church out there. Everybody's got a digital sign now.
Yeah, I thought we did have one because I was told you had to have two things on them, and it was the time and the temperature.
I heard that too.
Yeah,
They-
and then you could have a sign. That was like the requirement.
I think there is something like that, but the digital sign itself has never been addressed.
So where would I have seen the time and temperature thing at? I don't know why
I don't know, but I remember seeing something or hearing something about that, and it may be in a Jacksonville thing.
Maybe it was Wilbur that told me about it.
Because, at one time Prairie Land talked about putting a digital sign
Yeah.
up there, and it had to show the date
Yeah.
and time and all that stuff. And
Well,
go ahead.
I thought there was some discussion about the village having a digital sign.
There was.
At the,
We've been
at the
work-
entrance to the,
Yeah,
was that going to be on South Main there by where the
where the ice thing
ice
is
kiosk
now.
is?
I'm still working on that, not in that location, but another one. But that's yet to be.
Super secret.
It's super secret. You can't know yet.
Triple
You
stamp.
guys
no
can't
erasing.
find out.
Triple stamp. Can't tell you yet.
Right.
But yeah, we are still working on that. 'Cause that'd be
Swimming
Doesn't the
pool
great.
State
fences
Farm
heights are
man
reduced
own
to
that
4
corner
foot as
Yeah.
described in
thought,
the
yeah.
IPMC code.
Phil
Mhm.
Wiegand.
And-
Wiegand, yeah.
Most of the stuff that's in the IMPC is covered in this area, Now, that's been a very brief going over.
Really?
this.
That was brief.
We could go a lot.
I know. I have a question about two things.
Yes,
That I don't know if they should be added as ordinances or not, but I've had, somebody asked me now for the past 3 years, well, 4 years probably, with all the issues we had with finances before with Mayor Jumper. And it was a question about the accountants. or CPA firm that we have. And we had it was from Springfield, and I've got it written down somewhere, Palazzolo or something like that, I think might be his name. He actually came and did a presentation and said that you should switch, you being the municipality, who your CPA firm or accountant is every 3 to 5 years. He recommends that. Should that be an ordinance?
I don't know if it should be an ordinance, but it probably should be a practice.
And so I just didn't know if you should put that down.
You know, here's the perfect example of that. Let's say I'm not picking on these guys in Bowman.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not picking on them.
But let's say they miss something.
Yeah.
You think they're gonna come out next year and say, hey, we missed this? No, they're gonna cover it up to make it go from there on. So you need to have some fresh eyes looking at these things every 3 to 5 years.
Well, and I wonder then if you want to even go further, the engineers have been the same for a long time, so should you switch engineers?
It wouldn't hurt to, my opinion, it wouldn't hurt to get more bids on stuff versus rely on one guy.
Well, and we have our village engineer is the same as the city engineer, so, you know, because I was listening to the news this morning and they were talking about Jim Burke, the city, city council, and I'm thinking, why do we have, our law firm now is out of Springfield. We don't have a local law firm. I'm just throwing that out there. I was thinking about those two.
Is he with Hutchison?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the guy that was here that night?
Yeah. No, that's Jamie Hedden, but he's with Hutch.
No, Jamie Hitton's with Benton.
Benton. Okay, so yeah, that would have
The
been
other
him.
guy that
Burke
came and spoke.
was there.
Jim Burke was here. Yeah, you're right. So he is Hutchison. Yeah. And he's considered our engineer.
When we built the fire department, we put it out on bids, and we actually had a little leeway in there, and we actually choose the company out of Peoria to do this. And
I didn't know that.
And they were within a few dollars of, what the general was for everybody and all that, because these guys are all gonna be close.
So
But if you ever
I just wanted
notice,
to throw that
Hutchison
out.
only does this, and who's the other? Benton, they only do water.
Yeah.
They split it up. They're buddies on this deal.
Little collusion there. Huh?
Yeah,
Well, and that's just what I'm thinking, if you switch it, because I know different municipalities, they have their own law firms, or not, law firms and engineering companies they work with, and I don't know how long, if you looked back, I bet we've had Hutchison a really long time.
forever.
So I'm not saying we have to, I just thought if the gentleman from Springfield that was talking to us about changing your CPA firm, the one that does your audit is basically what they were saying, have a different audit firm every
Jim
3 to
Burke
5 years.
he was head of the Plans Commission forever, for the last 20 years, but he was the last guy before, what's his name took over.
So I just wanted to throw it out, because I didn't know if that should be something in an ordinance, or we just, I don't know
think this
what
should be practices that,
where would you put that?
Okay, here's from a personal experience. The audit thing, I could see, maybe not even, I wouldn't want that in an audit or 3 to 5 years, because what if you get a really crappy team in 1 year that just
So could you
sucks
do a
to
year
work
to
with,
year?
You know what I mean? But, well, what I would suggest is, like, that's a really good relationship we have with Zumbone. Maybe you want to bring somebody in 1 year, you know what I mean? Just to have another set of eyes on it, and then go back. The engineer thing, I'll tell you, I'm gonna give you an example. Like, I was not here when Bartlett came in, and the road and all that stuff. In 15, when everything happened, they didn't put in for the last reimbursement for MFT that they were due money from, and nobody ever knew that. And we were able to get it last year, but then they came back and said, oh, we shouldn't have given you that, give it back. And it was like $160-something thousand. And Jim Burke came in and met with us and with the state people, and he knew it all, and had all the documents and revisited it. So it was really good that we had that long relationship, and that he had been there then and knew all that, because he was able to save it for us.
Burke was the guy that was instrumental in bringing Bartlett to here.
And
He's big.
Well, and
in
I'm not
Canada.
saying don't.
No, but I'm just saying,
I'm-
I mean,
I'm
he
just-
really helped us on that
yeah.
one, and it was good that he was there.
I just know of like Chatham, and Chatham sticks out in my mind. I mean, they tend to switch. The Riverton, Rochester, they don't stay. We tend to stick for a really long time. The reason I brought up auditing is because that is one thing we've never addressed since all of that fiasco and the state police investigation, that was one thing that a lot of the public, when this room was full, they would come and say, you need to switch the auditors. They wanted the attorney switched, and we switched the attorney. Because they wanted it clear. They just wanted not accusing anyone of anything. It was just a matter of get a new attorney, and the attorney was switched quickly. And
Is that when Zumbalin come on then?
No, Zimbalem was here from,
yeah, Zumbalin has never switched.
he's
No.
been here
It's
since
always been-
2002.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
I
so
know.
people were asking for them to switch too, and the board never switched the auditor. So that's why I'm saying maybe now you should consider that, because I still have people from back then saying, what are you covering up? Why don't you switch your auditor? Which I know we're not covering up anything, but that just goes more to
But
transparency.
again, just human nature, if they screwed up, I'm not saying they did.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
perception of the public is we,
If they screwed up, they're gonna cover it up again and again and again and again.
well, and public perception is gonna be they asked for a new attorney and they asked for a new auditor. We got a new attorney, we did not get a new auditor. So then in people's minds are like, why did they keep the auditor, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it goes, I think more even than them covering up screw ups or something on their part would be that they were up against another CPA. You know what I mean? Like when you get pushback from someone who's in the same, who has the same credentials as you do, you might tend to, you know what I mean, see things a little bit differently than if I were to push back against them where my credentials are different than theirs, you know? So they're gonna be more inclined to find me, you know what I mean? Like, and that's, so, I mean, I've found them to be great to work with and fine, but I don't see anything
No,
wrong
and
with
I'm-
moving, you know what I mean? I'd hate to be bound to someone for 3 years of horrible.
No, and that's a good point. Maybe we do switch for a year, and the you know, could be the same way for the engineer, because I mean, I happen to have a husband, full disclosure, that works for an engineering firm, and he said it's territorial like any other business. So they don't mess with, because like his firm is based out of Springfield. They do have a location in South Jacksonville. But he said, we would never bid on this area because of Benton and Hutchison. You know, they just have this unspoken, like you don't mess in someone else's territory. But if we opened it, maybe we'd get Springfield, I don't know, maybe no one would want to be the village, you know,
Those are all big
engineer.
money things though, I mean.
We do have a lot of big projects coming up, so I don't know, I just want to throw that out there for more so than engineer, the auditor. I think that's really something we should think about switching. And I didn't know if that should be an ordinance or what. And then don't forget the elections, the allowing the use of the village name, electioneering. I think that has to be somehow brought into an ordinance.
Okay.
But I think Rob was gonna work on that. Didn't we discuss that though?
I think
That's-
so. That's
Yeah,
stuff
Jeff
that
said
I
Rob's
think
gonna work
a
on
lot.
Oh, yeah, Jeff said
Jeff was
Rob was
here
gonna
when we
work
talked
on it.
about that.
Because that would be, and even if it was putting it, what did he said, maybe even the personnel manual. I don't know if it has to be an ordinance, but. So those are the only 3 things I thought we should try to at least see where they go.
And once we get this done and sent off and all that, you know,
Can we still fix stuff
you
after
can
you
still
send it
make
off?
amendments
Oh,
to it
yeah.
and all
Okay.
that stuff.
This, well, from my understanding, this goes in and we have to send all copies of all ordinances that have passed since this came out, which has been, what, 2 years now?
Yeah, and it's been quite a few we've
So,
probably passed.
then we might need to do this again in 2 years, I don't know, you know what I mean, but it'll be a lot easier. But I will say, they have an August 30th deadline on us for this, remember? So do you want me to try to get another extension? Or are you gonna have this ready to send to
What,
them?
Well, obviously, we're
why don't I
gonna,
come in tomorrow or something the next day maybe and we'll call these guys and see what they want.
How much do we
They
have
want-
left?
They want the hard copy with corrections on it, that's what they want.
They want this blue copy with
Yep,
corrections on
with the
it.
corrections
we
right
want the
on
whole
it.
shebang.
Okay.
And then obviously, we got stuff that we're gonna revisit on the 29th, and
So I mean, I can.
you're not gonna have probably everything ready by the next 2 days, probably after that. Unless you have it already up to what we're gonna,
We
Yeah,
can
you
try and have this all ready to go on the 29th with the exceptions of somebody else brings something in and we make a correction there on and all that. You know, cause it,
I'll see if I can't get another couple.
yeah, cause it, well, it's appointed,
We're getting close.
Yeah. And you have, is it your copy that we're gonna be sending in? Or whose copy?
I need another copy.
Okay.
As far as,
go ahead.
Cause I made it, I mean, I put it on the, you know,
can take-
paper,
You can take the one Jason has, and that's the
Okay.
one from our,
but they
that was
want it
mine,
there.
but then it was a code, but I won't need it, neither will they, once it's finished, because
Mm-hmm.
that's just a draft anyway, so. And that'll be clean then, and you can do whatever,
Yeah,
make it, and then,
they're not gonna take it with all the posties.
but then, well, and actually, to tell you the truth, I'd rather, if you can get it finished the 29th, not send it until September, if I can get them to approve it, that way you guys could take action on it at the September meeting.
Yeah,
To approve, you know what I mean, all the changes, and then we can see if that works for
I
you.
think we need to approve something and send it in
Oh, yeah,
and
Yeah,
then go from there.
get it
and-
started.
yeah.
Yeah,
And this
And
only
Dick-
be done once a year?
It's been a 2-year project now plus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big process. I've
I mean,
done it
the
before,
people that
too.
compile they
Yeah.
only have a deadline just once a year, August 31st, or,
It's up to you guys.
no, I'm just wondering, I mean, the
Yeah.
people that,
Oh, no, they gave us a deadline for the project.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because they wanted that done.
They wanted
a long
it done
time
for a
ago.
year ago, yeah. And finally, the attorney said August 30th.
So they've been waiting on us.
Yeah.
well, we didn't touch this thing for almost a year.
No, we didn't. So Dick, has anybody ever been a trustee and a building inspector?
No,
It
not
was
that
just-
I know of.
I was just thinking, you know the most about all of that. Is it a conflict of interest if a sitting trustee does the building inspector job, or would you even
I
want
think
to?
it could be,
A conflict of interest?
yeah.
So you need to ask Rob.
Yeah, so what if you didn't, maybe you just wouldn't vote on things directly related? I don't know. I don't even know if you'd be interested. I just happen to think you would be awesome.
If
for
you've
that.
got an ad in the paper, let's go from there and see what you're gonna
Comes out.
You could apply for them,
Are
see
you
if
saying you want a job?
Dick's gonna apply now.
Well, heck, you already covered it anyway. You don't get paid for it.
get. Been there and done this.
I know.
Okay, I just want to throw that out there. You're the most qualified person I could think of.
You know, I think there's things that, under the code enforcement, that Bree could pick up and do some of this enforcement of these ordinance laws. You know, such as, not the building permits, just
Sure.
stay out of that building stuff.
Right.
But she could do, somebody has a swimming pool, you know, or whatever, and that's a poor example because it's covered underneath that other thing.
she'll get results too.
Oh, yeah.
But she's been very,
Very
very
good.
good, guys.
Well, and simple stuff, you know, like you were saying, roof, fence, stuff like that, I mean, Amy can write those. But when it comes to anything else, like, I don't wanna put her out there, having her do that, cause she doesn't know.
No.
You know what I mean, like, that's
And,
not.
and don't put her in a position of doing that because of the liability involved, you know.
Exactly.
You know, I wouldn't sign off and give that guy a letter of occupancy on that last motel, because it wasn't done. But somebody here did it,
I mean,
you know, no, I know, but if somebody did it, and here they go. And I told him, I said, you better hope nothing happens, you know, because you'll be the first guy they're gonna come in there and pick on. And there's so much stuff that changes all the time.
but how, is that letter of occupancy, like that example, does that
That's
supposed to
giving
come
them
from
the
village?
A-OK that everything is A-OK, all right, and all that stuff to move in and go.
Does that have to come from the village though, or should they have to
Has to
pay
come
someone
from,
else?
it comes from somebody in the village. You'll
So then
have
somebody
one,
has to do it,
you'll have
right?
you'll have a letter from the fire marshal saying everything complies. You'll have a letter from the state plumbing guy that everything complies, you know. But when I went out there to look at the place, they didn't have the railings on the walls for the stairways. There was no railings. Oh, we'll get that this afternoon. Well, okay. Let's use the elevator. Well, we haven't had it inspected yet, because it's inspected. They couldn't use the elevator, see? And things like this. So they weren't ready to be inspected by any means. But you got somebody hammering them, you know, we gotta get this done, we gotta get this done. So. Okay, any other questions? Look at this, I got you done by 10 o'clock.
No, it's even before 10. So we have to make a motion to, Megan wants to know when we're adjourning, so I'll write that down.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, okay. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Adios.